The Census 2020 will begin across the nation on April 1st, 2020. The census results are critical to Carroll County, Maryland, as it affects the amount of federal funding that the county receives towards education, road infrastructure, and the quality of life that citizens cherish here in our county. For the first time, the census will be available online, making it even easier to fill out the 90 questions. It's confidential, safe, and it's easy. Help make our county count and fill out your census in 2020. For more information, go to census.carrollcountymd.gov or census.maryland.gov. Keeping roads safe and passable are an important part of what Carroll County government provides for its citizens. The Bureau of Roads Operations of Carroll County, Maryland maintains approximately 988 miles of roads. 923 miles are paved and 65 miles are unpaved. Many of these roads are in rural areas of Carroll County and are not heavily traveled. To maintain these roads, Carroll County Roads Operations uses a form of road pavement called tar and chip. Citizens may have heard it referred to as tar and chip seal, and seal coat. Roads Operations uses 20% tar and chip and 80% microseal on county roads. The tar and chip road surface is a cost-effective way of maintaining Carroll County's rural roads. Tar and chip is used on paved roads that have too many cracks for microseal. First, tar is sprayed across the road that requires maintenance. The liquid tar seals the cracks, extending the life. Stone is then spread over the tar to provide a wear surface. A vacuum truck then collects the chips, ending with a fog seal that locks the stone. The process typically takes around 2 days and should not have to be reevaluated for another 7 years. Since rural roads are typically considered low traffic volume, the tar and chip is a successful and economical form of preserving the integrity of the road. Have questions about a road near you? Call 410-386-6717 to reach the Bureau of Roads Operations. Even better, subscribe to Topic of Roads Operations with Carroll Connect on the Carroll County Government website, carrollcountymd.gov.
It's supposed to be 50 degrees today. That's a good thing. Of course, it was supposed to be 48 yesterday, and I don't think it was. So, we're going to rise for the pledge, and then I would ask after that if you so desire to join us in a moment of silence. Please keep all of those that are in our armed forces. On a personal note, a selfish personal note, I have a nephew right now who is involved heavily in the Crucible, which is the last part of Parris Island Boot Camp Marine Training. And he's got they go in as a recruit, and he'll come out this evening at about 1,800 hours as a full-fledged Marine. Very proud of that young man. So keep all of those that are in our armed forces in your thoughts, and certainly those in public safety as well. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Priority Carroll. Commissioner Frazier. I'm going from right to left today, or
Thank
left
you.
to right.
Well,
Depends on
depends
which-
where you sit.
Right.
Well, I went to the screening of No Small Matter earlier this week. Really a good documentary on children, first 5 to 8 years, what they learn, what they take in, and what they need to support them. Because all the problems we're having today, one thing was brought up, if we invest in those first 5 to 8 years of a child's life, we won't have to invest later on in prison and unemployment and social problems. It was really, really well done. I recommend it to anyone to go out and see No Small Matter. It was at the Carroll Arts Center.
What was the subject matter on it again? I'm sorry, Dennis.
Children for the first 5 to 8 years of their lives, and the impact and how you should, like best practices to get them
Okay.
moving forward
Okay.
and well adjusted. It was really good. It was really
Finally,
well
a
done.
manual for raising children.
Well, it was funny because after the film was over, someone in the back of the auditorium says, every parent should have to watch that before they have kids. Sort of true, but you can't force things like that to happen.
License to drive,
Right.
no
Right.
license to.
And who's doing that?
Well, the health department is where I got the invitation from, but I don't know what group is actually
Okay.
that actually put that out.
Okay. Yeah, that might be something.
Contact Ed Singer if you need to know about it.
Well, we're apparently sitting as the Board of Health today, so
Yeah,
maybe we
you
can,
can ask Ed about
Great
that.
idea.
maybe in the last 3 hours of that, we could ask.
Looking forward to it.
Anything else, Dennis?
That's all.
Just a couple, hopefully quick things. Feel like sometimes we're a broken record, we repeat ourselves, but another word for it could be consistency. And dealing with our veterans. Earlier this week, I attended a groundbreaking for a veteran center. It's going to be a 20,000 square foot veteran center off of Monocacy Boulevard in Frederick County. The reason I'm bringing this up is a partnership between the Goodwill of Monocacy and a nonprofit called Platoon 22. The Goodwill of Monocacy is Carroll County and Frederick County combined. So all the Goodwills in Carroll County are a part of this Goodwill of Monocacy organization. It is going to be designed to take care of our veterans in the region, those that are going through some significant challenges, and it's just another opportunity where we're actually taking action in taking care of our veterans. And then earlier this week, Commissioner Weaver and I attended, as we always do, the Veterans Council. Once again, I walked away very inspired. We are at a point where we have have return on investment of over $20 million since inception on compensation and pension for our veterans.
Coming back into Carroll
Coming
County.
back into Carroll County. This last month, where we thought that numbers would be starting to dip because of the holiday season, going into the winter months, have actually risen for reach out to our veterans, from our veteran support officers, transportation efforts for our veterans, and just again taking care of those 14,000 plus veterans in Carroll County. I just want to cap this off by I attended the Economic Alliance of Greater Baltimore, which looks out at the entire region. I'm sit on that board representing Carroll County. And I was sitting next to the Baltimore County executive yesterday afternoon, and I shared with him what we are doing and asked what Baltimore County is doing, and he just was like, "We're not doing anything near what you're doing. We need to get together." So I look forward to following up with him and his staff during Mako to share what we are doing here in Carroll County as a model to the state, and again, how to expand opportunities taking care of veterans. So
That's good stuff. Yeah, that's excellent. By the way, that's the standard answer. We do more than they do.
Except for taxes. We do
Except for
less.
tax, we do
Yeah,
less, right, that's true,
taxes.
that's true.
Ditto to
I
what
stand-
Commissioner Roskin said.
I stood corrected, sorry.
Last night I did attend the Westminster High School, the FFA showcase, and quite a few people from around the state, Annapolis, University of Maryland, all attended, and it was quite impressive. The kids had different workshops set up throughout, just to show what they were about throughout the classrooms. Nice event. We had a chance to speak, but really impressive what our future leaders are doing out there. And then Friday night is the tree lighting in Hampstead, so anybody wants to get into the spirit for the next holiday, come out to the tree lighting at 7 p.m. Good stuff.
Thank you. I'll start out by stating that Commissioner Frazier has the best tie on. You hold that thing up.
Let me stand up for this time.
Yeah, but
Let's
this
get close
is-
up.
He's a turkey.
There you
Oh,
go.
wait,
He is in the spirit.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be a hater.
Thank you for being
Don't be a
festive.
hater. Don't be a hater.
Last week I attended the MT Laney open house of their new headquarters, which moved from Enterprise Street to Bartholomew Road behind the Chick-fil-A. And now this business is a local success story. This is a gentleman who started as a truck driver or dump truck driver, and now he's running a multi-million-dollar construction operation. So his success is an inspiration to a lot of people out there of what hard work and determination will lead to, and ultimately it helps their county with revenue and employment. They're a very large employer. Also toured Francis Scott Key High School this week. Love that high school. It sits out in the middle of cornfields. It's kind of a hidden gem over in the northwestern corner of the county. They got a wonderful program, great principal, Miss Mobley. And I appreciate the school taking the time to give me a tour of their facility. And yesterday, I had the chance to tour Hyde's Quarry with Tom Devilbus to check on the eradication of the zebra mussels. We allocate resources to treat the water supply source. I believe it was the only inland area that had zebra mussels in the state of Maryland. Would I be correct in stating that? Well, we have successfully killed those little buggers. And I just regret going out there without a fishing rod. The place is absolutely gorgeous. So I'd like to thank all the people that participate in helping eradicate those mussels as a future water source for us. So thank you very much.
Okay, on the, talking about consistency, the Veterans Independent Project Gala was Saturday night, and Weaver and I were there, and they continue to do their fundraising efforts in an attempt to get a resource center here in Carroll, and so that was a good event, and we will continue to try to support them in any way we can. For those that remember, they're the group that was originally trying to look at the armory up here, and then the federal government got involved. And do I need to say any more about that? Alrighty then. Okay. On the holiday theme, Manchester's tree lighting is Friday night. Next Friday night. Next Friday night. And that's sponsored by the Manchester Area Merchants Association. So that's at 6 o'clock. And it's going to be at the firehouse there in that vicinity. And they're having a scavenger hunt with all the merchants on Main Street in Manchester. So there's a commercial for them. So if you want to come out next Friday night to Manchester, starts at 6, and the Christmas parade in Westminster is Saturday at 5.
She's trying to think of what date it was.
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
Miracle in Maine, I think is what they're calling
Yeah,
it.
5 o'clock this Saturday. Calling for rain on Maine, but we'll see what happens here. So,
Are we leading the Westminster band in that?
it's alleged, yes, that I will be in front of that group. Yes.
If it's not pouring down rain, I'll be there as well.
Okay. You gonna wear like a Santa hat or something?
I am. Oh, I can't be Santa, but I will have a
Okay.
elf
So
hat.
you
And
both
help
You're an elf.
It's electric parade. I have my hat's got battery powered.
Softballs up to us. It's
Battery
not
powered.
fair.
Battery powered. I don't want to get electrocuted.
That is an image we don't want to have.
Okay, keep going.
You're awfully tall for an elf.
Yeah, I kind of like this banter.
Wow.
And I mentioned my nephew. If you do get a chance, please stop down today and congratulate his father. Mike Zepp is down in permits, and it's Mike's son Tristan, who at about 1800 today will be a full-fledged Marine. So if you get a chance to stop down in permits today, congratulate Mike, because I truly think he would. I know he'd appreciate that. All right. We're supposed to be talking about a Carroll County Tourism Award that we received, but I don't see Bonnie, and I don't hear Jack. So, based on those two things, if they come up, we'll get to them when we can. But I guess we'll skip. But I know we Bonnie received another award for the tourism efforts and the things that they do over there. And I want to
She's a
congratulate.
pleasure to work with.
Yep. So congratulations to them. And when we get her up here, we will we'll expand on that further. All right. First item on the agenda: rental of salt storage facilities. Mr. Brown.
Good morning. So we're here to request your approval to renew the term contract with CJ Miller for the rental of salt storage facilities and equipment rental for the delivery and unloading of salt, These services will only be used as weather dictates, and the budget for these rentals has been approved at $51,000.
Oh, and Tina. Oh, and Jim. Okay. You want to expand on that a little bit for us? and
Absolutely.
Give us a
Good morning, Commissioners.
what we're doing here. Thank you.
A couple things are going on here. One is we are actually updating the term contracts that will also reflect the loading that has been happening for years and years and years. But after staff in purchasing and roads began to look at things, it becomes much more efficient, and we're actually combining everything. Instead of having two documents, we will have one. What this is that we work with C.J. Miller on both of these sites. And roads, we do not have, nor have we purchased, enough loaders to just sit around. So the only time that we pay Miller, in addition to our lease, is if they actually are on site and we have them loading salt on our trucks. So this, at this point, is the most efficient way to do it. Obviously, we have looked at other options, and we've worked with building construction on a variety of methods to store our salt, just in case you want to know. We continue to do that. But to be the most efficient that we can, this is where we need to be with this contract.
Yeah, their loaders, no wear and tear on ours.
That's correct. It's their equipment, and the only time we pay for that equipment and staff is when they are actually being utilized. The rest of the time, we just have the lease for actually storing the salt in the building.
How long have we been using C.J. Miller in this capacity?
I've been told at least 10 years. I don't know.
Longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been longer.
Longer than 10 years.
Is it not necessary to go into a competitive bid process? They've been satisfactory, meeting all our demands.
They have been, and the key that we're using this is actually has more to do with location, than actually bidding. So they already own these sites that we use. We don't have sites, but we need them to store salt. As we look at our future planning, which we have, again, that was kind of going back with construction management, we would look to one site where we'd be able to consolidate these two, because it would become a larger site to store salt. Then we could be more efficient in that way. But being the most fiscally responsible and understanding what you all have had to deal with in the last few years and continuing in the budget, we know at the moment that's not an option, but we do continue planning for that using these two sites.
Just last, is the $51,000, it is in the budget?
Correct.
Okay.
Make a motion, the Board of Commissioners award contracts for snow removal to C.J. Miller on an as-needed basis.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions? Jimmy, you get saying
I
it.
know. Thank you.
I like it that way.
I mean,
Instead of smile.
truly, I'd like to get you to explain it now.
They love it.
All right. Any questions? Additional? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See, I got you to say something.
Y'all have a good day.
Hi, Bonnie. How are you? Thanks, Doug. Yeah, let's skip. I know you're next up too. Let's. I'll give you. Bonnie, I know. Yes.
Batter up.
You're up.
Okay. You messed me up a little bit. I was gonna have somebody join me.
Who's
That's
that?
okay.
Who's,
Pardon?
you want to wait?
No. Well, she said to come up right away, but is that correct?
I didn't say anything.
Okay.
You should have been here at 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Besides that,
Who's coming? You want to wait?
If I could I wait?
Yeah.
a little
Well.
bit?
Yeah. Yep. Let's
Okay,
wait a little
that
bit.
would be
If that.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Musical chairs,
I'll
Doug.
be back.
We'll fit you in.
I'm sure Doug will like to go
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Hey, Doug, where'd you go? What are you doing, Doug?
Musical chairs.
All right, request approval for budget transfer from Rollerball Road to the ramp and sidewalk upgrades. And Doug's joined by Deb Button. Good morning.
Morning.
We're here to talk about sidewalks today. A couple of weeks ago, we bid a project to upgrade some ramps in the Carrolltown area. But before we do that, we're requesting a budget transfer. Once we got the bids and we were looking at our available funding, we realized that we were slightly short in the amount of $7,500 to award the project as it is. So we're here requesting a transfer in the amount of $30,000 from the Rohrabaugh Road account to the sidewalk account. So I said we were a little short by about $7,500. So I'm asking for $30,000. It's a little different. That's just so we have a bit of a contingency in case something should come up in the field where we need to expand a little bit more, replace another panel of sidewalk that, you know, we didn't have in the original contract.
Playing it safe.
Is this contract for making these sidewalks ADA compliant, or are we adding
Yes, it
additional
is.
sidewalks as well?
No, these will make them ADA
So, okay.
compliant.
Do we need additional sidewalks around that school?
That's not in this
I
contract.
know, it's not in the contract, but, I mean, one of the things we can talk about is trying to, for sidewalks around all the elementary schools
Mhm.
within a certain radius so that students can walk back and forth safely. So, I mean, if this is for ADA compliance, that's fine, it's
Yes.
necessary. But we also need to look at expanding the sidewalks around all the elementary schools so students can walk back and forth
We have,
without danger.
Back in 2016, we did a survey of
Right.
all of our sidewalks and ramps and what was compliant and what was not. Of all the ramps, we have 862 total at the, ramps at the intersections. At that time, about 626 were non-compliant. A lot of them are older, they just weren't built as we need to have them constructed. So far, either through this project or through our paving projects, we've hit almost 100 of them. So we still have a ways to go just to get into compliance, and that's what we're trying to do with these projects. And of course, we're focusing on, schools, hospitals, government buildings, where people generally walk.
With existing funding that we have available and understanding where you guys want to go, but with our existing funding, we can really only focus on about 20 of these sites a year. So while you've heard we've been able to get 100, this funding will only allow us to do 20. So we try to pick the 20 primaries and understanding we want to increase more. Our focus is also to make sure that those who have a variety of disabilities can use what we have out there now. And so we're trying to bring that around and into compliance.
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion because I've shared before, like Piney Elementary does not have a sidewalk in front of it or going southbound on Freedom Ave. And it could be very costly to install one. We've had those conversations, but it still doesn't take away the requirement for us to look at in,
Absolutely.
Focusing on safety and, looking at especially these elementary schools where sidewalks should be, regardless of the cost. And then we figure out the priorities and how we can either find the dollars through us or through other programs that the state or other grants that may become available. But I do believe we should continue to be aggressive
Sure.
in looking at sidewalks around these schools. And Piney Elementary just happens to be one right around the corner from me that I see every day without that sidewalk, and folks are challenged walking on Freedom Ave into the school because they have to park
Sure.
down the road. So.
Understood.
Right. We have suggested this, and I also suggested working from the center of the county out.
Clearly understand that.
Now,
So what's not happening on Rohrabaugh?
Well, that road was paved in 2014. We did pipe replacements, we paved the road, and then the balance of the funds were to replace the large double cell pipe culvert that's in the bottom. Just this past year, instead of replacing the whole thing, we did a lining with ProShot, which was $56,000. So we have savings in that account.
Less than a third of the cost. This is when we come to you all many times where we'll choose to do linings instead of excavating and replacing the whole pipe. So now we can leverage that to get a little more sidewalk.
I appreciate having the opportunity to see those linings be redone. I think it's a very wise move to save the county money.
well, we also don't wanna have a perception that a project like this becomes, I won't say a slush fund, but an opportunity to pull money out of, you know, so, you know, it's gotta be very clear, we budget for a project, the project is done, if we have
Yep.
savings of money, then yes, that can be allocated or moved from one place to another,
Yep.
and we don't over budget something
Nope.
to then use
Right.
as a place to pull.
Yeah, absolutely not. If we had to go the traditional route, that
Yeah.
would have been utilized, and then whenever Debbie and her staff get an opportunity to, again, further another initiative of the commissioners, which is the ADA compliance of these ramps, then we look at that and say, wow, we came in a little over, can we get it done? That's when she directs her staff to go back and look at, what do we have? What's our
Fantastic.
And then obviously change the scope to you guys.
Right, I mean, we knew what our available funding was. The one thing that we try to avoid is to, okay, let's narrow the scope of the project, but then that means we're leaving something out, and then we have to come back into that same community a year or two later to finish up 2 or 3 locations. So we're, you know, we that's not really the best, practice either. Rather get it all done in a neighborhood at one time.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion that, Board of Commissioners approve the budget transfer from Warbaugh Road, 8476 to ramp and sidewalk upgrades, 8626 in the amount of $30,000.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
All right, now that you've got the money, let's see if we're gonna let you put the sidewalk improvements in. Mr. Myers.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now that we have some money, I can appear. We would like to award the contract for the sidewalk improvements to Priority Construction, the amount of $143,060. County went out to bid. We did receive 2 bids, but unfortunately the second contractor was not pre-qualified for this type of work. So I'd like to award the Priority.
Have we used them before?
We have, yeah, they did a very similar project about a year ago, same area.
I'll
Make
make
the-
a-
Go ahead.
Make a motion, the Board of Commissioners award the contract for Eldersburg area sidewalk improvements to Priority Construction Corporation in the amount of $143,060.
Second.
All right. I think we vetted that in the last discussion. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Whispering Valley Stormwater Management Facility retrofit.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so we'd like to request your approval to award a contract for the Whispering Valley Stormwater Management Facility retrofit to White Pine Construction, the amount of $798,643. Again, the county went out to bid, received 9 bids for this one, and White Pine was the lowest.
So, refresh our memory
Okay.
on the,
So I'm going to give you a little
Whispering Valley.
background
Yeah.
on the pond. It's in Manchester. We've been working with the town of Manchester for several years on this facility. There are numerous property owners involved because we have extended some storm drains to correct some drainage issues out there in the community that were raised during our pre-app meeting with them several years ago. Janet's going to explain a little bit about what we're doing there, and then if you have any questions, certainly we'll try to answer them.
As Gail mentioned, this is a project that we're working on with the town of Manchester, and they've been very integral as part of our design development. We are looking at taking a shallow marsh stormwater facility and converting it into 2 surface sand filter facilities that'll treat about 90 acres of drainage. The project is located in the Pretty Boy Reservoir watershed. It is in a use 3 their use 3 waters downstream, so it's important that we have a surface sand filter so that the stormwater leaving the facility is cool for the trout waters downstream. We did receive a grant from DNR for this project that'll cover $375,000 for the construction costs, which will leave the county's portion of construction at around $423,643.
How much acreage is this?
The drainage area is about 90 acres with approximately 21 acres of impervious area draining to the two facilities.
I'll move that the Board of Commissioners award the contract for the West Spring Valley Stormwater Management Facility retrofit to White Pine Construction Corporation in the amount of $798,643.
Second.
Okay, so certainly all of us applaud you for the grant money that brings that price down. That's tremendous. And I will tell you that when I attended the Manchester Town Council meeting a couple weeks ago, they were very excited about this project and had nothing but compliments about staff here and all that's been accomplished to get this to where it is today. So I want you guys to hear that too. So thank you. All right. Any other?
It's good to hear.
Yep. Any other questions on this? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Acela Land Management System, annual maintenance and support renewal.
Morning, Commissioners.
Okay, so we're here to request your approval to award the contract for the Acela Land Management System Annual Maintenance and Support Renewal to Acela in the amount of $84,258.60. This amount is within the adopted budget and no additional funds will be necessary.
So what this is for, this is the annual renewal and maintenance for the integrated land management system that we have. The integrated land management system goes all the way from the beginning of concept design through the issuance of the UNO. We've been working on this project for multiple years and are currently finishing up phase 3. We implemented the permit system a couple of weeks ago, and they are now using the system, and we have 2 more levels that we need to get through, and we plan on doing those in the next year. The cost of this, just so that you know, the original project was $952,000. We did an additional $300,000 in licenses and enhancements over time, so the total cost is $1.2 million for this, and that means that the maintenance is coming in at about 7%, which is well below the 10 to 15% average for the industry.
How long have we been using Acela?
I have Mr. Scott Markle here from my department. Scott, when did this start?
2005.
But by the mic, please. I'm sorry.
Yes. I'm Scott Markle from Senior Program Analyst from Technology Services. And I've been working with the Acela product and software since 2006. 2005, we reached out looking for, a software company, and they decided on Acela in 2006. And we got the code enforcement module up and running, then we got the plan reviews, and now we got the permit system up and running. So that's when we first started with it.
Is this the only company that can do the maintenance?
Yes, because it is a proprietary product. Yep.
All right.
So, and it's been going up about 5% per year over that. But again, the overall maintenance cost compared to what we purchased with the system is below the industry standard. So,
Make
right.
a motion that the Board of Commissioners award a contract for Acela Land Management System annual maintenance and support renewal to Acela in the amount of $84,258.60.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and second. Any other questions on this one? All those in favor? Aye.
thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Mark, while I've got you on a hot seat, stay
Yes, sir.
right there on that hot seat.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve. We're not gonna buy anything, so thank you.
All right, bye.
I was gonna try to get you on the agenda, but you're here now, so let's just
Okay.
roll with this. Dennis, I know you had asked some pointed questions about our security.
Yes.
And 2 weeks ago, when I attended the Maryland Association of Counties Board Retreat, we had a really good presentation on ransom.
Okay.
Where and that type of thing. So this continues to be front and center. As a matter of fact, the winter conference, there's going to be some cybersecurity sessions, and again, this is one of these things that keeps us all up at night.
Sure.
Right? So there were a couple of pointed questions, and I don't, forgive me if they are the same ones that you asked, but I wanted to make sure that you had them so that you could provide answers to us, because the presentation that we got was really, really good. So one of the questions that was asked was, do we have an incident response retainer?
Yes, we do that. We do have that.
Okay, and those, whoever they are, would be available to be here and be boots on the ground within what hours? 48 hours, 24 hours?
I don't remember. It's pretty quick. It's within a day, yes.
Okay,
It might even be a 4-hour response time.
okay, all right. Is that one of the ones you asked?
Yeah, so I don't recall
Okay.
that one, but.
All
So,
right, and
and
certainly-
it's not costing us anything. It only costs us if
Okay.
we
Yeah, I
use
do
it.
actually, I did
Yeah.
ask that, 'cause I remember an answer,
Yeah.
yeah. The
Okay.
no cost thing just triggered my mind.
All right,
And then we also do have an insurance policy through risk management.
Okay, yep, so I just wanted to make, they were, you just answered all three questions. So they were the
Okay.
ones that were most prevalent when we were talking about this. Now, obviously, we can't go into the details of what is what.
Sure.
But, that was made as being critically important to local government, to make sure that all those things are in place. So I just wanted to make sure that we had that.
Yes, we do.
Much knew, I think, what the answer was gonna be from you, so, so appreciate the fact that you stay on top of that.
I asked this
because-
question 6 months ago.
Yeah, whatever, okay, all right, okay,
All right.
that's all we got, thanks.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Mr. Ripper. Thanks for being on top of it.
No problem.
Oh, what? Good? Okay. Hampstead annexation,
We have a public comment if you want to.
okay,
Ms. Stacy Schaefer.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
I'm
morning.
Stacy
Morning.
Schaefer of Schaefer and Schaefer LLP, here on behalf of Tracy Beck, who is the petitioner in this annexation petition. I'm really here just to answer any legal questions that you might have in the course of the discussion, which I suspect will be few. A couple of things bubbled up at the last session that I just wanted to touch briefly on. There was a question regarding the town's willingness to take on the street. I just wanted to let you know that my conversations with the town, certainly they are supportive of this and interested in transferring over that ownership portion of the street. Our client does not actually own the street bed. Those lots, if you look at the old plat, abut the street, but she would certainly be willing to enter into any kind of a quitclaim deed that would be necessary for that to occur. Her plan is in fact to create one residential lot, and she has already obviously reconfigured the property with regard to that. There was a question as to how old those lots are. That plat dates back to 1924, so that's why there's those little tiny 5,000 square foot lots, which certainly would not be in compliance with today's zoning. And with regard to the staff recommendation on the notice to the town, I just wanted to note that the Maryland Code section, which is in the local government Code 4-406C, pretty much sets forth the statutory requirements for notice which the town has been in compliance with. So I just wanted to put that out there. So if there are any other questions, feel free to ask me as we go along. Thank you.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
That's it.
All right, Linda. Is it Director of Planning and one of our comprehensive planners, Claire Stewart. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So again, we're back here before you for decision to forward comments to the town of Hampstead for annexation number 42 Beck property, and again to answer any additional questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Claire Stewart to just refresh your memory on what we discussed.
Morning.
Morning.
So we were before you on November 7th for a briefing, and I just prepared a quick overview. The map in front of you is a zoning map of the area. The 4 lots and that portion of Singer Street are outlined in blue right there. Keep in mind that the 4 lots were consolidated into one back in June of 2019. So the town corporate limits are the red line, so we're contiguous on 3 sides. And then the black and yellow dashed line is the municipal growth area. We're located off of Singer Street and then Hauksville. This green public conservation zoning is Shiloh Middle School, and then the Solo Cup warehouse factory is just off the map to the east a little bit. So the current land use is R10,000 in the 2010 Hampstead comp plan. The current county zoning is R10,000, and the town's looking to bring the property into the corporate limits is R10,000. So no zoning waiver is requested.
So we are looking for the board to sign a comment letter, which should have been forwarded to you. We have, let me back up. So we have 3 specific comments that we were going to note. Number 1 is regarding that portion of Singer Street. As I noted before, the property owner's petition includes that. The town's resolution does not. As Ms. Schaefer stated, the town may be interested in annexing that in as well. The second comment I have is from the Bureau of Engineering, which regards the right-of-way. The current right-of-way is the gray dash line inside the town, and she's just asking that, I'm sorry, the Bureau of Engineering is asking that the right-of-way outside of the town just matches that existing right-of-way which is in the town. And then our third comment was just that the adjoining property owners are notified. And I know the town has done a little bit of notifying property owners, at least the ones directly surrounding the property.
And we've added that as standard language based on a prior annexation request from the city of Westminster. So now that just becomes standard language in our comments that make sure that the town just notifies adjoining residents.
You good with this? Yeah. I mean, I think we asked that before, so.
In fact, I'll move the board approve, sign, and forward the commitment letter to the town of Hampstead regarding annexation number 42 Beck property.
Second.
All right, any other questions on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a quick morning.
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
So amendments to the 2014 master plan.
Yeah.
Hey,
Let's
Claire,
not slow it down.
before you run away, just want to share, again, appreciation for the work you're doing and your team's doing, the biking trail master plan that was reviewed at the Planning and Zoning Commission. Everybody on the Planning and Zoning Commission really showed their favoritism, or favor and appreciation for that work that you did. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
You're definitely a rock star on the team, so.
She is.
Appreciate that.
She can't go anywhere. And then we'll also be coming forward and scheduling time with the board to brief you on the finalization of the bike ped plan. So we're looking forward to that.
Can't wait to ride on it.
Yes, us too.
So those,
Actual bike path.
so those paths will actually go somewhere, right?
We're hoping, yeah.
Library,
Hopefully that
everything would stop.
Yes,
Right.
all connects.
Oh, good,
That's
good.
That's the vision, everything connected, go anywhere.
It is a very thorough, very well
Yes.
thought out, and, you know, all municipalities engaged in doing it. I mean, the feedback, everything, and, you know, Claire, you facilitated that, so I really appreciate it, so, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, now the amendments to the 2014 master plan, 2014 master plan.
Yes, so we came to you on October 31st and presented, whoop, that's not what I was looking for.
Yeah, isn't that October 31?
They're not. Yeah, did not look like the cover, there you go. So we came to you on October 31st and presented to you a summary of amendments to the 2014 master plan. Again, the main reason for the amendment to the 2014 master plan was really to get it in alignment with the 2018 Freedom Community Comprehensive Plan. Recommendations and changes were made in that plan that ultimately did affect the county master plan. Specifically with regards to land use designations, we readdressed those in the 2014 master plan to align with what was in the Freedom Plan. The Freedom Plan had really, I will say we did it was good work on that, and I was happy to bring this forward to the master plan. As well as since the time span between the adoption of the plan and 2019, things had changed. So we wanted to acknowledge before we went into the comprehensive rezoning process, changes to the designated growth area boundaries, changes to parts that have been annexed within the municipalities. Also, as we are embarking on our transportation master plan, we wanted to also recognize the transportation element in the master plan that had shown roads that were removed from the plan, roads that had been completed, and updating status of other roads that have been partially completed. as well as adding another recommendation on page 57, referring to the transportation master plan and the development review process. And this is just a map of the planned major streets that have been adjusted and updated in the map. Also, we updated the environmental resource chapter. There were some new code references that needed to be inserted, as well as an insertion of solar energy. When we initially did the plan in 2014, the county was just starting to embark on some of its solar ventures, and now that we're have a Soul Smart designation and we're one of the leaders in the state for solar energy, we thought it was really important to include a section on solar in this document. Then also with the land use and growth management chapter, we had to readjust some of the boundaries because of changes to the designated growth area, as well as in the Freedom Plan, the very low density land use designation was removed, and we couldn't have a growth area with no very low density, but the county with very low density. So in order to keep the same land use designations throughout, we removed that land use designation from the 2019 amendment and then put back what the 2000 land use designation was. So essentially there was no change to those properties. We also updated the future land use map. There was an employment campus designated south on 97 near the community college. That property was an ag remainder at the time, and the property owner wanted to repurpose it at the time from an employment campus. But based on an economic development study that they had done, they actually sold the property and they had one unit left on it, and so now that's sold to a private person, so that employment campus designation no longer made sense. We also redesignated some other properties. One was in ag pres from commercial to agriculture, and then again, as I said, the very low density residential, and then there was a property off of Twin Arch Road that went from commercial high to industrial heavy because of the business that had always been taking place there, and that property owner brought it to our attention, and we were unaware in the 2014 plan. It's a very small parcel. Again, the appendixes were updated for the existing and future land use definitions, again to be in agreement with the Freedom Plan. And also we added a new map, a generalized future land use map that shows the county future land use as well as the municipal growth areas, understanding that the municipal growth areas are grayed out because we don't plan for those in this master plan, but they do have future land use designations, and felt it was good to show everything on one map to show the complete picture for the county. This is the current future land use map. As you can see, there's no very low density residential, and it was replaced with its current low density residential or conservation land use designations for the futures, with the majority of all those very low densities reverted back to. And so that's all I have for you. Are there any questions? You've had some time to review the plan.
Refresh my memory, what are the two solar recommendations?
The two solar recommendations are, well, it's not a recommendation, it's to, let me go to the page, it's environmental resource chapter, which starts on page 99. So, toward the end of chapter 13, on page 112, we started a discussion about solar energy, and we talk about what the county's doing for solar energy, what the state's goals are, and then we talk about what the Soul Smart designation is that the county currently has. So we have that silver Soul Smart Award designation that was applied for, I think, by the EAC on behalf of the county. So we just talk about that, and then talk about what the county was trying to achieve with that designation. And then also the airport property, solar, they're in discussions to put solar on that site for the airport, but it's currently agriculturally zoned, and so our ag zoning does not allow for energy producing solar. So with this plan, Public Works requested that those properties be made into industrial low or light, and then when we do the comprehensive rezoning, those properties have already been identified as industrial, so that way they can have energy producing solar on that site. And we didn't have to preempt local zoning authority.
Basically,
Well, they're, we're in the middle of comprehensive rezoning as
Correct.
well, and ag's coming up.
Yes.
So that's something that we can address then, but there may be, we may want to talk about ag zoning and whether or not we would want to allow that type
Absolutely,
of
and
solar
that will
on
be
there,
something that
right?
we investigate
So
as
that, I
part-
just wanted to make that point that we're not there yet, but we will be at some point, and we could introduce discussion if we wanted to about that, because I know that there, in my district, there's been a couple folks that have made presentations to me about the fact that if that could happen, it would be beneficial for various, a couple schools and that kind of thing.
Certainly,
Private
and that's
schools,
something
so-
we'll definitely be looking at, and the state has some useful tools for us to do that, what ag land, if that's the direction, would be most appropriate through their Smart DG tool, which actually helps you kind of narrow down what the best areas are that solar companies would be looking at.
Right, okay.
And this wouldn't prevent any of that from happening in ag. This just allows the area around the airport to be
Correct.
rezoned, so in case it doesn't go in that direction, we can still put the
Right.
23 acres of, or whatever it's gonna be.
Yes, and
of-
timing was of kind
Right.
of the essence on
Yes.
that particular
Yeah. Got it.
venture.
Because we can still do everything, do that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, okay, all
So
right.
so you're coming before us, sharing with us the amendments,
Yes,
suggested amendments to the 2014 master plan.
correct.
We have a couple of choices
Correct.
that we can make. One is to adopt, which would be pursuing and allowed, and just do, finish the master plan. Or the second is to have an opening for public hearing, correct?
Correct.
So, I think, we've been very good at the transparency, at the, reception and receptiveness of our community and public. Why would we not want to open it up for public hearing, and then move forward, as, what, what are
Sure,
your thoughts?
absolutely. So, we had so first of all, not to go back onto the old law, but the old law, the requirement was just for planning commission to host a public hearing. Under the new current legislation, the planning commission and the board, if they're going to adopt, shall hold a public hearing. So we did have a public hearing, via the planning commission on August 20th. At that time, no one came forward for any public comment, and we received no written public comment on the plan at all. So now, we're coming before you, and we were kind of looking at the timing with regards to the comprehensive rezoning. So since that there were no comments on this plan, again, the board has the decision to, as you said, to move forward and just kind of let it come into effect or have a public hearing.
Right.
The public hearing, you may get some new comments that come out of it, or you may not. We were looking at the cost benefit, and it does cost, actual dollars to have a public hearing because we do have to advertise, and we feel because this plan had no, comments and they were very, discreet changes that I guess the public hearing, what more would it bring out?
Well, yeah, no, and I appreciate it, but I think, to us, the return on investment, to have a public hearing invited by the Board of Commissioners and
Mhm.
not the Planning and Zoning, holds a different,
Absolutely.
Approach, and I think we've been continuous with that theme, so my recommendation is that we take everything that you shared,
Mhm.
and that we schedule a public hearing. And then upon the conclusion of that, we finalize and adopt the amendments, 2019 amendments to the 2014 master plan.
Okay.
So that is my motion.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will, work with, the Commissioner's Office to schedule a public hearing, hopefully in the month of December, and then we'll have discussion and deliberations, scheduled as well. All right?
Okay, very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we're gonna skip back now to, because Bonnie's here. So hang tight, Jen. We're gonna go back and, talk about, hey, we're on Bonnie time.
Well, as Bonnie's coming up, I want to apologize for having snapped earlier about my comment about 9 o'clock start, so please forgive me about it.
Hey, we're,
Thank you.
so you weren't used to the snapping, Bonnie, but we are.
They get it all the
So
time.
you're apologizing to her, not us, is that correct?
I apologize.
Okay, good, let's be clear.
I'm a big believer when you criticize in public, you should apologize in public.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, I should not criticize you in public.
No, that's fine. I appreciate your flexibility, and I think it was on my part. So thank you.
Yep, thank you. So,
Okay.
I know we got another award.
We did, and that's why we're here today.
Right.
I brought someone I'm not sure if you all know her, but this is Ann Cox. She works for me at the Visitor Center. And the reason I brought her, she was very instrumental in getting this publication as nice as it is. She actually took all the 35 barn quilt owners, and she's called every one of them. She went through their history of the barn and history of the quilt pattern, and then she did the narrative for that. So I needed to give her lots of recognition for this nice publication, and we were very proud of this publication. We had 10,000 copies printed, and they're being distributed at our welcome centers and to the visitors that come to our visitor center as well. And I attended this Tourism and Travel Summit 2 weeks ago, and we received the award for the best printed promotional publication, and we were very pleased about that. So we wanted to share that good news with you.
It's excellent.
You should be. This is beautiful.
Yeah, I think it turned out very, very nice. Yes. And we're getting lots of compliments about it.
Lots of good.
Yes, lots of good comments. And Carroll County was all over the map at this Tourism and Travel Summit. So Carroll County is out there with all of our economic development, good news we have, along with getting this award. So it was great.
That's excellent.
Okay.
When was the latest barn quilt put up?
The latest one, probably in the spring, I believe. We're currently working on like 4 more.
Yeah, okay. And
right.
so you think there'll be 4 more coming in the next year?
Right, yes. Yes, and actually Balkers has contacted me. They're gonna paint their own and wanted to know if they could put it up on their barn there along 140, which will be great. So we will include that in our barn quilt trail as well. So it's very well received.
How are we doing in competition with Garrett County?
I know. I had asked the Garrett County girl at the summit, and she wasn't really sure how many they had, but I think they're in the 40s. Well, hopefully we get there.
We're not taking any of them down, are we?
Yeah.
This is really nice publication, very.
What are you doing tonight?
Just like going looking at I like the fact that you also have what the barn quilt is called at the top. And when I look at the name and look at, okay, that makes sense for most of them. But it's very nice, very, very well done. Thank you.
Our farmers are very proud of their properties,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
they were very willing to share.
And our county should be very proud
Yeah.
of this. I mean, this is really nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. All
So
right, we're gonna
thank
do a
you.
photo op
All right.
since you're here. So
Come
we're
up
gonna.
front.
Want to do it now? Okay.
Hey, Matt.
You want to hold one of these, or what do you think? And then-
Take one more. 27 pictures in a second.
There you go.
I know, you better. Thank you.
You take your tour of the barn clothes here, Commissioner?
I'm up on one here and later.
That's a good close.
Well, talk. Well, talk.
Yeah.
I don't know about moving this, that's over there that way. Yeah.
Commissioner Boucher, did you take your tour yet?
Did what?
Did you take your tour yet?
Not yet, I will.
Okay.
How's that? You can go with me.
Okay.
It doesn't help my driving. Just keep looking at the barn clothes.
Yeah, I know. Safety issue. Okay. Gamber Fire Company. Loan request. Jen, incidentally, is anybody from Gamber?
We're planning on coming, I know.
Yeah, I know we're
Everybody
sched-
was the original, but
I know we're scheduled for 10:20.
I'm not sure if anybody,
okay.
they said they were going to send someone, I'm not sure, I don't.
Okay, out of respect for them, why don't we just wait a little bit? I'd like to do that, so we'll skip ahead. And I know we've got one item that is not considered to be sitting as the Board of Health. So why don't we take care of that one, Ed? Unless you got somebody.
He has people
So
coming.
I've got school system folks coming.
Okay, so,
But
all right.
we could do the Board of Health, and then you could adjourn as the Board of Health and reconvene as the Board of Commissioners, if that's okay with you.
That
I've only got 3 items on there. I intentionally tried to make it kind of brief. So, and I don't even have my folks here who are gonna speak about all those things, but I can cover them myself if they're not here.
That's,
Whatever you all wanna do, you're the bosses.
if you got, I hate to do it if, okay, if folks make an effort to come here and then they find out that it's already over, that happened to me a few years back, and
That was on purpose.
well, that's true. That was,
They gave him the wrong
now,
time.
now that I think about it, it was on purpose. You're right.
You weren't supposed to tell. Do you wanna take a break?
Yeah, why don't we take,
I mean, continue, you know, we can't.
yeah, why don't we take 5? Can we do that? Because I'd rather have the representation here, and for you as well, Ed, because I know folks are making an effort to come over. So,
Well, I make a motion to recess till 10:20,
why don't you do 10:15?
10:15.
Yeah. Is that good?
I will amend that motion to 10:15.
All right, we're gonna take a break till 10:15. All those in favor? Recess till 10:15. And next on our agenda is Gamber Fire Company. They have a loan request, and I'll call up our Bureau Chief of Accounting, Jen Hobbs. And Jen's got the chief with her.
Chief and chief, right?
Chief.
Good morning, commissioners. With me is Mr. Charlie Green from Gamber Fire Company. We are here today because we have received a application from Gamber Fire Company requesting to borrow money from the county through the low interest loan program that we offer the volunteer fire companies within the county. They have requested to borrow up to $387,250 to be used for the purchase of a new utility pickup truck, refurbish a fire engine, and also resurface engine bay floors. Currently, we have said that the term of the loan would be 10 years. So I am asking the board to consider approval of the loan request, along with also asking the board to adopt a resolution to declare the intent to reimburse the county with debt proceeds, which would be for the next bond issue next fall.
Okay. So questions on this? The only one, and this is the first I read it, so I apologize. I typically try to read these ahead of time, but I know that we've always focused these low interest loans before on things other than building or capital projects. Is that correct?
They're usually on capital, some sort of capital project, either vehicles,
Okay,
equipment,
not the, okay.
capital.
I have it backwards.
as far
Okay,
as
right.
buildings.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. All right.
In
So,
the I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Any questions?
So the second part you're asking for, if I'm understanding this right, is that we'll be reimbursed from the fire company, and that our intention is to pay the bond back. Is that?
The
what it says?
intention is that we kind of set up like a pass-through where we, to get the loan, or we bond for the money next bond sale, we pass that money through to the fire company, and we give them the same interest rate as we would get on the bonds. So it's just a pass-through, they pay
Okay.
us.
Right.
It doesn't count as debt for our,
Okay. Alright.
we don't have to come up with the funds to pay the money back, as it's just a pass-through.
The second paragraph is a little confusing. I got you.
And you just did some remodeling.
Yeah, we just remodeled the social hall last year.
Yeah. And you paid for that yourself?
Yeah, we paid for that out of the, our bank accounts, and that's why we're trying to do this as a loan, just so we don't take our bank accounts too far down.
Okay.
The current loans,
Mhm.
the $164,000, is that the current principal, or is that the original loan amounts?
That's the current principal. That principal will be paid off in total by July of 2021.
What was the original loan amount of that?
The original loan amount, I don't know that I have that with me. I could get that.
Was it a 10-year?
Yeah, it would be 10-year.
So
So they would have taken it.
So they would have taken in 2011.
Correct.
Give or take.
Correct.
The loan payments on that, in addition to this current request, and I'm turning back to you, that would be manageable for you.
Yes, sir.
Because you're talking now, I don't know what that original loan amount was, but
I don't remember what the
your-
original
your-
loan
your
amount.
payments, you'd be able to handle that through the finances that you currently have.
Yes, between our bingo, our carnival, fundraising we do, yes, we can make those payments.
What are you doing to the engine floors?
The engine bay floors right now are just finished concrete.
Yeah.
And if you guys have walked on wet finished concrete, it's very slippery. So we're trying to put some kind of grit. It'll be epoxy with a grit in it.
Okay.
Myself, last year fell on it. And, if we have workman's comp claim, it's going to cost us well more than that floor.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get that done.
Yeah, good move. That's excellent. Which engine are you refurbing?
131. It's a 2001. We want to refurb it, because it's before all the EPA stuff came about. It's a great engine. We've actually done testing on the transmission, the motor, So everything looks good on it. It's just taking care of it, keeping it for another 10, 15 years plus, hopefully.
Is this a ladder or is it just
Just an engine.
Okay.
A pumper.
Okay.
With that, I move the Board of Commissioners approve the loan request of $387,250 by the Gamber Community Fire Company and adoption of a resolution declaring the county's intent to reimburse expenditures with debt proceeds.
Second.
All right, any other questions?
Just, for my edification, is this, do the other fire departments within the county use this tool as well?
Yes.
And if that's the case, how many do we know are currently?
Actually, we were just here in July, and Hampstead,
Right.
we brought it, and we actually have a application out currently. We haven't received it back, but a request for an application from Harney. And then, I know Westminster just paid off their large loans from the building that they had many, many years ago. A good many of the fire companies use this program. We have not had any problems with them repaying these loans. They're very good with their financial planning.
So with all that said, using this tool is a good idea, is favorable with the fire departments to ensure they get the needs.
Absolutely. And it allows them to receive a lower interest payment for them to purchase equipment and capital needs.
Okay, good. Thanks.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good job.
Very good.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Nicely
you.
done. Thank you. All right, next item. Spending a little bit of not in Carroll funding. That's our health officer, Ed Singer. Ed?
Philippa from the school system here with me, so. Morning, Commissioners. Ed Singer, Carroll County Health Department, and
Philippa Gomes, I'm the Supervisor of Health Services for the school system.
Morning.
so, Commissioners, we, it's interesting. I was at a Lions Club meeting last night. We were talking about things that can be done about this opioid crisis, and one of the things that came up was, what you're doing with the after-school programs and whatnot. And I think people think that's great. And I just want to thank you for all your initiatives with the Not in Carroll funding, which not specifically related to this proposal, but there was some money left with the other proposals that we had put before you for this fiscal year for Not in Carroll funding. And the school system had asked we had a bunch of proposals that went to the OOCC, and most of them got funded, and there was another one the school system had that got funded, and we had several others that were funded through state funding. But for some reason, I think they misunderstood what we were asking for with this grant. And our naloxone program's doing a great job in saving people's lives. And my peers put it best: as long as somebody's still breathing, it gives us an opportunity to get them into treatment and have them become productive members of our society again. So what we're attempting to do here, and what we're asking for, is we want to. It's difficult a lot of times to get teachers to come to after-school trainings and whatnot. And I'd actually discussed with the school system, is there a way that maybe this could be fit into in-services or other things? But I think school systems are being asked to do so much these days in their in-service time that there was just no place to put this. So what we were trying to do is incentivize getting some teachers and nurses together. The health department's trained all of the school nurses on the train the trainer for naloxone administration. And what we'd like to do is get more teachers trained so that we can make sure not only would they be able to use this skill in the schools and with students or after school programs or things like that, but they'd be more people trained in our community on the use of naloxone. And what we want to do is incentivize getting the staff there by paying essentially an hour of overtime for teachers to have them come to the training, and pay overtime for the nurses to provide the training. And that's what we're essentially requesting. So, Philippe, is there anything that I'm missing that you'd want to say to the commissioners? This has been discussed with the senior policy group. I think the group thought it was a good idea and a good initiative. I'm sorry that the state misunderstood what we want funded, because I think they would have paid for it, but it's not going to happen this fiscal year. So we're coming to ask if we can use some of the money that's left in the Not in Carroll funding that you had set aside for this purpose.
So last school year, the state did give us some funding, and the school nurses were trained, and so from the time March to June, which is a very short period of time, they were able to have several trainings throughout the county, and the nurses got together like in clusters, so elementary and middle school nurses and high school nurses got together and they provided training not just to staff but also to students and to parents, and it was very well received by the community. So that's something we'd like to continue. So we had 140 people trained overall in that time period. 76 were school staff, 54 were parents that came to the after-school trainings, and about 10 students. So our goal this year was to continue with the training, and then when we didn't get the funding, it was a little disappointing. So that's when I approached Mr. Singer, and he suggested that this may be a possibility for us to continue doing these very important trainings.
So that's essentially it, unless you all have any questions about what we're asking for.
I got some.
Okay.
How, I want to say, how often has this been used in the school system where naloxone had to be administered?
So we have not administered naloxone in schools at all. Not that we didn't have situations where we could have. There have been situations that the nurse could have used naloxone. There was a situation that happened in one of the schools, and they thought the student was having a seizure, and was later discovered that he was indeed overdosing. So that's what we're trying to do, is if we have those types of situations, that the teachers are aware and the nurses are aware, everyone's trained, and we know to go to the naloxone if that's the appropriate measure. We do have students, of course, who have a diagnosis of seizure, so the nurses have to be careful not to assume that it's an overdose, but in this particular situation, that was what was happening.
And
So-
my point asking was, one is to understand
Right.
if there are numbers, but also it is not to say, okay, since we don't have it, not to do something. No, I appreciate the effort in being very proactive, and unfortunately that we have to even think through this, but it is a very proactive approach, and I appreciate that. So.
One thing I'd like to add, if I can. I'm Carl Streeter. I'm Director of Student Services. Sorry I'm late. I was just leaving Century High School's opioid prevention meeting with state's attorneys, so from there coming here. One of the things, to Ms. Gomes' point, we're learning and trying to train our nurses. It's not something it's a go-to in the past of is naloxone the go-to. So in our meetings with our nurses, that Ms. Gomes has done, my meetings with school administrators, athletic directors, is remember we have this resource. We have Narcan. It's not something that we've thought of before because we didn't have it. So now when a student presents with certain things, it's a matter of learning and certainly being more attuned to those things that could be cases where we would use that to support a student or a member of the community if they were in the building.
And we are seeing trends in that, traditionally, I think in the substance use arena, we've traditionally, most of our issues have been with people middle-aged and older, and we're starting to see trends where we're having more of an issue with this in our youth. And it's something that, we want to address on the front end with the prevention piece, because we think that's absolutely the most important thing we can do. But we also want to make sure that we can have these tools in place so that we can save somebody's life if it's necessary.
So you're saying we are seeing trends, who's we?
We, the health department, our prevention folks, I can provide you some statistical data if you'd like. I don't have it with me, but I can get that from Linda Auerbach's our prevention coordinator, and she and her staff have said we're seeing I've seen the statistics. I just don't have them with me. That we are seeing trends that we're seeing this more in our youth than we had before.
Do we know if any of these individuals that have been trained have utilized the training outside of the school?
Yes.
And I don't have that.
We don't specifically track by where they were trained. I can give you numbers on naloxone and how many people that were trained, but I can't tell you where they were trained. So I'm not specifically tracking the
Well, I
ones.
was getting at, there's a benefit outside of the school that these people are trained that could be helpful out in the general public as well.
If they've got the product.
Yeah.
Well, and the family and the health department, could provide the product to the people that need it. And we're not putting naloxone necessarily in everybody's hands who gets trained, but we're putting it in key places in the school system. And then if we've got family members who actually need it, we're providing them the product, because some of the family members that were trained, I know that they received naloxone from us because they were concerned about members of their family potentially overdosing at home. And so it's while we're training them there at the schools, that we're also providing the product for them to potentially have in case a loved one were to overdose. And the health department we don't want to put naloxone in places where it's not necessarily going to be used, but we've worked with the school system to place it in key places in the school so people know where to get it and they can use it there. And we've made sure that anybody who feels like there's somebody at risk that they may run into, that we've gotten naloxone to them. So we can provide naloxone to people that need it. There's absolutely no issue with that. We've got the funding for that, and we could easily do that.
I do want to add one thing. When we trained the 140 people that I said we trained last year, the grant did give us funds to buy kits. So it was interesting this year, they did give us the funds to buy the kits again, but not to provide the training. So that's where we think there was a misunderstanding in the needs. So because the school system gave us they gave us the kits so that if we provide the training, we have the kits to provide to the participants. They just didn't give us the funding to provide the training after hours.
I don't want to jump in front of you. I got a few questions.
You have down here up to 200 staff members are going to be trained. When you train the nurses are at different schools throughout the county. Is there anything going to be looked at to make sure the staff members are scattered around the county as well, so you don't have 200 from, say, 3 schools and no one from somewhere else? So how are you going to manage that part?
Yes. So that is how we've been doing it. What we did last year, I have the numbers for last year, like where in the county the trainings were provided. We were able to purchase training kits with the funds that we were awarded from the grant to give every single high school nurse the training kits. So what they're doing is they're working with the elementary and middle school nurses and sharing the equipment. And so they're strategically providing the trainings, like say in one campus. So last year Liberty had one training and the elementary and middle school nurses participated in that training at Liberty High School. And so parents were invited from the elementary and middle school, and they all went to Liberty High School and had the training at the high
But
school.
how are you going to ensure that all 200 aren't trained in the same? In other words, if you had Liberty High School again, let's say, and you had, I don't know, Westminster, two of the schools, you could have all 200 people taken up right there. How are you going to ensure that it's all the way around the county and not just the staff members from two areas?
The way that we're proposing is to make sure that we had a few nurses who were not trained last year, make sure all the nurses are trained, and that this is being offered in every school. I have one nurse who overlooks like where the training requests are coming from, and then we decide where the trainings are going to be held. So I have a floater nurse who is helping me with
Right,
this.
but it's not really answering my question.
Okay.
If you have 150 people that request to have this training, are you going to say, well, I'm only taking 50 from this area so I can get this other area? Or are you going to take, okay, you got 150 people, they're all in the same area, but we'll take them all? That's my question. How are you going to ensure that you've got 40 different schools, I think it is, throughout the county, that these 200 staff members are all around those 40 schools and not in any particular, not one in one school and then you got 20 over here? That's my question.
That's what we talked about. We kind of calculated how many teachers we thought or people would participate, came up with the 200, thinking that it would be from every single school, not just one particular area. But
to your point, Commissioner Frazier, if 200 people showed up at Westminster High School to a community training, we would be in a challenge to train more people. I would welcome that opportunity to train 200 people in Westminster. I think that would be a step in the right direction for training. But to your point, how would we be sure we turn people away because we set up a training and we got a lot of people in? I don't think we would turn people away. I think we would then look for other ways to accomplish that if we saw that many people were coming out to be trained.
So I would suggest if the commissioners are concerned about getting it distributed throughout the county, that the motion could be put in such a way that you would ask the school system to provide it at a certain number of locations throughout various districts in the county if you wanted to ensure that that's the way that this was going to be spent. I'm just throwing that out there as a potential suggestion.
Which is fine, but all these questions lead up for me. How did you come up with $10,080 if you don't even know what the numbers are yet? Because I know that you did this training before, I think, in combination with Stop the Bleed.
First, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, are we just picking a random number here?
No,
Is there a need for this training? Because I believe when it was offered before, you had a tough time finding people to take the training. Because I think we've trained a lot of folks now. So I'm just curious, and only because I want to make sure that this Notting Carroll funding is being put towards the critical needs. And I'm not so sure that this is critical in my mind. Because I got the math. But what happens if you only have 10 people that show up for the training? Now, we've given you $10,080 for training, and you've only trained 15 people. I'm not dissing this training. I think this is important, but...
I think I addressed it, though, in the way that I phrased the motion for you all. And the way that I phrased the proposed motion was, well,
okay,
Commissioner, what I said was...
motions, but go ahead.
But that's okay, but the way that I had suggested was that this would be reimbursed based on the actual number of hours spent, so that the county would only pay for the people that are trained. So I don't know, I think we tried to address that by suggesting that the money wouldn't go directly to the school system, but they would invoice you for the people that would be trained. And I think that if people didn't show up for the training and you didn't have people to be trained, then the money wouldn't be reimbursed.
And you've got a commitment from folks that are going to stay for an extra hour after school.
I do. We surveyed the nurses, and 33 nurses said that they would be willing to stay after school.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Has this money been allocated already?
No.
No, that's the
Is
other
this that
thing.
in budget for this year?
Yes, you all set aside money for Notting Carroll funding this year. We spent a certain portion of that on the mobile crisis and a portion of that on the after schools program, and there is a remaining balance left that has been allocated by the commissioners but it's not been set aside for any specific purpose.
What is that amount, do you know?
I don't have that with me offhand, but I think it's roughly, Roberta, do you remember, it's roughly in the $30,000-$40,000 range, I believe.
I don't want you to misinterpret my line of questioning here. I just want to make sure that this is the most appropriate use for $10,000+ because there are a lot of critical needs here. And we've only got so much in that Notting Carroll funding.
Yes.
So now we're suggesting that we're going to pay people overtime to do training with this money. And I've got a little problem with that.
Well, ultimately, that's why we're here, and it's your decision. It's a recommendation that we're bringing to you, and ultimately you have to decide whether it's appropriate or not. But I don't know.
Are we focusing on education because that's critically important? Are we putting everything we can towards education? Because I'm pretty sure $10,000 would go a long way in educational. In an educational forum of some sort, or I just want to make sure this is the most appropriate use of spending our Notting Carroll funding. And I don't know that any of us anticipated the fact that we'd be paying salaries out of this $300,000.
Couple, unless you want to address that.
I just, I don't know how to address that. I think sometimes we're doing everything we can on the outreach side, and I think we do a great job of bringing people into the events prevention-wise that we do, that the health department does, the state's attorney's office does, and we do in conjunction with a lot of the other organizations we have. I just, I feel like we've probably saturated the market as much as we can, and I don't know that putting more money towards that is necessarily going to bring more people out and educate more people. If I thought we had a need there, we'd certainly be asking for it. So I don't want to say that, I've told you time and time again, I think the key to this whole thing is the whole prevention piece, and we've got to do more for prevention, and we got to do more to reach our young people.
That's where I'm going, Ed, and I have a tough time, again, I'll say it
Sure.
again. I don't know that any of us thought that we'd be paying salaries out of this $300,000. We provided this money to go towards programming, educational opportunities, but I didn't put it there to pay people salaries.
But I guess the point, this is program education as far as it's salaries to pay people to educate and inform people.
I don't get what you're saying. I'm sorry, I don't get that.
It's to pay the nurses to deliver the...
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. That's the thing that I'm having a problem with. We didn't put that money in there to pay salaries.
but they're being offered after school, and that's what we need to do to get our nurses to do that.
Does the health department provide naloxone training?
Yes, we wouldn't have the capacity to, I've got essentially a trainer who goes around and provides training wherever it's needed. I wouldn't have the resources to be able to provide this at every one of these schools.
In response to your question here, could this be done as in-service or a day or something like that, that you put it out, we need 5 people from each school, put them together for this training at a central location? Would that be a way to train them or not?
So it's a required 1-hour training, and I know, I'll let you speak to what a principal, that as far as their in-services and how much time they have to train staff. So we would be taking up 1 hour of training.
And as a school, I mean, it's something we could ask schools to do. There's a lot of training that they're doing, delivering curriculum, new initiatives in the organization, all the, the technology training that they need. So I think to ask schools to add another thing to the ongoing, and many schools already have that planned for the year. I mean, they plan their training usually the summer preceding the school year of what trainings they're going to offer, their professional development. Again, it's primarily instructionally focused that they're doing throughout the year.
But I would think this would be looked upon as a priority.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly right. If this is a priority, apply resources to it, and that includes time. And so, I would be looking at, that opportunity for in-service training for 1 hour, if you say that this is a priority.
But the goal is not just for school staff, it's for the community, which is what we reached out last year.
I appreciate, but there's also other places for the community to receive this type of training as opposed to in the schools. You said there was 140 that were trained last year.
Mm-hmm.
From that 140 that are staff or that are in the schools, are they still in the schools or have they been treated?
That I don't know.
'Cause
I mean, that's an HR, I'd have to.
right, and they may already be in the schools, and then the other is the SROs that are in the schools
Mhm.
are also trained.
Mhm.
So we're covering down on probably the largest populations that would be at risk in using, unfortunately, having to have this administered, and we already have folks in those systems that are already trained.
Our goal, I think our goal is to train people beyond the school. I mean, if an incident happens in the school, absolutely, we have SROs there, we have nurses there.
Right.
But our teachers, many of them are community residents, our community at large, and opening this up to our community at large to have them come in and receive trainings is also an
So
important
don't
aspect.
we have like in the fire departments, they have evening classes and training that's available to all the community,
Yeah.
and it's
We're
free.
We've got naloxone training
Right.
everywhere. We really do. And again, it's very important. Everybody should be trained. I'm pretty sure the majority of us are. I just have a problem, again,
Right.
with our Not in Carroll funding going to paying salaries, and we're not even sure what the need is. If you put it out there, because there are so many people trained, you're giving us figures, we don't even know if there's a need.
The chemicals or the pens themselves, are they paid for by the health department?
Well, the school system just said they've got some money available to pay for some of those. We can also provide those. We pretty much will provide naloxone to whoever feels like they need it. We're careful about. We've trained some large employers, other places like that, and what we generally try to do in those cases, like if we have an employer that has 500, 600 employees, we'll place those kits at key places where they can be accessed throughout the facility, and try to save our resources on distributing naloxone to people who actually feel they have a family member and might need to carry it because of that, and just place it at key places when we're talking about large.
And that's paid for by the state
facilities.
budget?
Yes.
Your state budget providing that, okay.
I want to, again, reiterate what we're all saying up here, and that's the importance of the training, the importance of putting attention to this. Believing, though, there are other ways to get it all complete. There's the training at the fire departments, in service could be an option to be used for this type of training. And I would look at those than spending this type of money towards it, you know, because I think you can meet the requirements. I mean, I definitely applaud looking into a method of the training, but I think there's other options that are out there that can do the exact same thing. And, you know, if you promote in the schools for parents, hey, this training is being done this evening at this fire department, then it's incumbent on them to go to the fire department and get trained, and it's free. So,
Did this policy initiative originate with the Opioid Operational Command Center or the Senior Opioid Policy Group?
I think it began with the school system. It was the school system's initiative, and go ahead, Felipe.
It was the Opioid Operation Command Center grant that we applied for last year. And we were awarded the funds to train nurses to become trainers, and that's when we collaborated with the health department, where Lisa Pollard came out and trained the nurses. It was a volunteer basis. So the nurses who were willing to become trainers were trained to become trainers, and then those nurses provided the training in their schools after school, because nurses obviously, they can't provide the training during school hours because they're taking care of the students. So they did it after school, and we did reimburse them for that 1 hour of training that they stayed late to provide.
So we're taking an initiative to expand on something that was initiated.
Correct.
But
And
this new initiative didn't come from the Opioid Command Center then?
Yes.
You're gonna have to go to the mic.
The original grant that Felipe spoke with came from the heroin policy grant that was awarded to us last year. Then the Operational Command Center grant we just applied for, and then since last year's initiative was, there was a need based on it, we wanted to continue that. So that was through the Operational Command Center grant that has just now been approved. Does that make sense? So there were two separate grants.
So
The
why
initial
aren't
was-
we continuing to utilize the grant?
That's
Why are
the-
you asking us to pay salaries?
They didn't award it.
Yeah, they didn't award that, no. That was one of the pieces that, for whatever reason, they supplied the kits, but they did not supply the other initiative. We're thinking that it
Because
wasn't
there's so much
2020.
training going on, that's why. There's your answer. There's training in all parts of every organization across the county and the state, which is, again, we've really put a huge emphasis on training, the naloxone training, and we continue to do that through our public safety organizations and what have you. So that's my challenge. I didn't put this money in there to pay salaries. That's all. It's a great initiative, and we should continue that. But that's not what that's away from what we wanted to do with this 300,000. I don't know. That's just me. So, what's the wishes here?
I was wondering if there's a better utilization of the resources that Mr. Singer thinks could be applied to.
Well, and I don't have a proposal for you for anything right now. I mean, it's obviously we're going to continue as the senior policy group meets next month, and we're consistently discussing whether there's gaps and needs that we have that we think should be addressed. And I don't have anything for you right now, but there might be other things that we might take a look at and come back and talk to you about. Obviously, I understand your point of view, and we feel like expanding naloxone any place we can is a good thing, because I look at the amount of resources that we're putting into that, and I think I don't have the full statistics with me right now, but there's hundreds of lives that we saved with naloxone last year, absolutely, and I get it if the commissioners don't feel like this is the appropriate use of the funding, that you feel how you feel about that. That's understandable. we just feel like the naloxone program and anything we can do to expand it is an opportunity to save another person's life.
And I believe we do too.
Yeah.
And I believe we're all saying the exact same thing. It's just how you allocate resources, time, people, and money. It's not necessarily to allocate that money, but look at the other resources, the people and time and opportunities for this type of training. And let's promote it. Let's, in the schools, make sure that the flyers are out there or in the mailboxes of every teacher and every staff that this training is available in our community and give them that opportunity. Let's put it in the newsletters in the school system for parents and the community to know that this training is available because we believe that this is a strong requirement or this is a priority. Use those tools in service as a potential, and then at that point, if that doesn't meet the requirements, which I think it will, we could look at other alternative means. But we agree with exactly what you said, Ed. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I do too.
I love your initiative of training more people out here, and I know a lot have been trained. Are all health teachers trained? No. All coaches? I would, this is just a thought, but I would start with, you have in-service, or your health teachers come together somewhere, have an hour dedicated to training all health teachers. Then go, coaches have to meet, train all coaches at one of the quarterly meetings, take an hour. So here again, you probably have those. We're paying for the product if you're not, probably, and that money, so that here again, we're expanding out into the school system, and then you can expand into the communities a little bit of time, evening PTA meetings or whatever. Maybe people would be willing to be trained.
Right, and to your point, Ed, it has been advertised. I mean, it's advertised ad nauseum in many areas.
And we're doing as much as we can outreach to people to let them know that we're providing it.
It's not like we haven't done that. We are doing that.
And
so
continue to do it.
Yeah.
But and just to reemphasize, I know a number of you guys have already mentioned this, but there's definitely the state's provided us plenty of resources to get the naloxone out to whoever wants it, and we're certainly going to make sure that absolutely if somebody has a specific need that they have the opportunity to have that available, because we don't want people to die unnecessarily, because I always come back to and I don't remember which one of the peers it was that says to me, as long as the person's breathing, we can do something for them. So it's that's why it's.
Yeah. All right. Well, I get the sense that we are not looking to move forward with this initiative.
Okay.
Applaud you for the forward-minded thinking, but at this point, we would ask that you go back to the drawing board and find what we would perceive to be a better usage for $10,000.
Okay, and I want to thank the school system for being such a good partner with the health department on a lot of our opioid initiatives, and I'm sorry this didn't go the way exactly we necessarily wanted it to, but I do appreciate them being here and bringing this proposal forward, and thank them for everything else that they work with us on a daily basis. So.
Okay.
Mr. Singer, I was wondering, when emergency medical personnel show up to someone who's overdosed, is there any policy or initiative to help train the relatives of that survivor?
Yes. We're working on that with the difficulty we're running into, and I've been working with David Coe. We the health department's been working with David Coe on this. Some of the and this is going to go. I'm going to be really happy when the county's got kind of a unified EMS service and whatnot, because this is, we're constantly talking about each company you got to go to and convince them that it's the right thing to do. But we're working on trying to get more folks on board with that. We'll provide the training, we'll provide the naloxone, and it's what they call a naloxone leave behind program, and we're in the early stages of that, and we want to expand it. It's but I think we're going to be in a good situation as the county moves towards trying to have a unified emergency management response, entity that kind of, so we can push things out as opposed to having to convince 13 individual companies that it's the right thing to do.
I was thinking it might be more effective to precisely apply the training to target areas where you know it's definitely
We're
needed.
trying to get it out everywhere that we can, and that's one of the things that we're working on.
Because I get the sense this is more like hunting with a shotgun. We're throwing a lot out there and hoping that one or two work.
But you know, the bottom line is, if we train 100 people on administering naloxone and one of them uses it, it was a good use of my time. It was a good use of our resources, because that's somebody's lives you saved. It's, you know, it's somebody's kid, it's somebody's relative, and it's important to them.
You've had a very tough position throughout this opioid epidemic, so I appreciate all your effort.
Thanks.
Just one final comment, if you don't mind. You already require every coach in the county to be CPR and first aid trained. It's a requirement, or you can't coach. And if you're giving the refresher course, it's much quicker than if you're going through the initial one. Maybe that would be the time to put this type of training in for all the coaches in the county. They could do it at that point. And it actually would take less time than the initial CPR and so forth training that's already happening. Just a suggestion.
Yep. Appreciate it. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Next on the agenda, we sit as the Board of Health. So, I need I don't know that we need to, we don't necessarily need to close and open, but I need a motion to sit as the Board of Health.
I move that we sit as the Board of Health.
I will second that. That's supposed to say.
I'm going to invite a couple of staff
Okay, hold on a
members up.
second. We want to make
sorry.
sure we're going to do it.
I'm jumping the gun.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're now the Board of Health. Hello?
I feel
If you got, you know, my wife's been trying to keep me straight for years, and she's had no success, much like Commissioner Weaver's. So, you know, far be it from you guys to be able to do a better job at it. I want to invite Maggie Coons and Andrea Hanley, who are staff at the Health Department, to come up here. They're going to cover a couple of issues. The first one's kind of all me, and then I'll let them cover the things that they're going to cover. The first thing that's on our agenda for the Board of Health is, I believe in your packet, I made a copy of the law that July 1st of 2020, there's a state law that goes into effect that bans styrofoam in food service facilities. I mean, there's a broad definition of food service facilities, so it includes governmental places, it includes schools, and it includes a whole bunch of things. Essentially, we inspect all those places already as a health department, because any place that's a food service facility needs a license from us. We've already outreached to all the facilities. We included it with their food applications, information that the ban's coming. I think everybody's aware of it. I don't think we're going to have a whole heck of a lot of problems with compliance, quite honestly. And starting in January, we're going to do a little bit of a media campaign, including things on Facebook and out on our website and whatnot, to make sure that everybody's aware of the requirement that's coming. So the thing that I'm here about is essentially there's some things in this law that are a little unclear, and I'm still trying to get some clarification with the state. But one of the funky things they did was define as a unit of county government a local health department or a local environmental department. And what I'd like to do today, essentially, as we're moving through this, is ask for you guys to essentially designate us as the local health department as the agency that's going to do the enforcement for this in Carroll County, because it just makes the most sense, since we're already inspecting these facilities, that it's not going to take anybody additional resources to go out there. The only thing we're going to have to do is come up with some form letters and meet the requirements and notification and whatnot in this law. And there's a couple of other things that I wanted to go through here. In one section,
You want to address that first? 'Cause
Well,
I got a problem with that.
okay, but go ahead.
First of all, I want to know what enforcement means.
Well, I wanted to get to that, and that's down at the bottom piece of this, and I wanted to talk to you about what enforcement means and what we'd like to do and get your input on how you feel about that.
Yeah, that's a critical piece of this,
Yep.
because
Absolutely.
I've already had a lot of small business owners reach out to me and say, when the health department comes in here and tells me to get rid of that box of styrofoam, you're going to get a call.
Right.
Or if they're going to give me a fine, you're going to get a call. So
So let's get down to, we'll get down and discuss that piece, which is further down in the law. There's some public education and outreach requirements which are basically put on the Department of the Environment. So we're going to do our piece anyway and trying to educate people on that. But the enforcement piece and one of the things in here is it allows for a $250 penalty, but it doesn't require, because it says may impose a penalty, and I'm not sure exactly what that's even going to look like. And I think what they're expecting is that the local jurisdiction is going to set up some type of mechanism if you want to have fines that would involve your county attorney and imposing some type of civil citation. And like I said, it says may impose, so I'm suggesting that it's really not worth the effort or time to be fining folks for this situation. And but what is required under this thing is that we have to notify, and what I'm suggesting we do is as a health department, because it's required by this law, and in order for us to comply, somebody who is required to inspect and provide a notice to the business that they're in violation of the law, and then if they're in violation of the law, to notify MDE. And ultimately, the way that I see it, that makes it MDE's responsibility if they want to take enforcement action for them to deal with it. Somebody's got to be involved as the unit of county government, because the state legislature put that responsibility on the local jurisdiction, and it gives you the choice of us, or if you want to make your local environmental department the enforcement agency. That won't break my heart. I just think that it wouldn't be the best use of your resources, because it would. Yeah, it wouldn't break my heart, because then we wouldn't.
You know what you just said, right?
It'd make my life easier. But I just think, since we're already in the facilities, that it makes it less resource intensive on the county to have to deal with the the inspection portion of this. And all I see us doing, if we do this the way that I'm suggesting, is issuing notices to the facility that they're in violation, providing those notices to MDE, and then it'd be incumbent upon MDE, if they want to take enforcement action, to enforce the law that was adopted under the environment article.
So, but there would be a process in place that would require you to turn these people in.
Essentially, yes.
I've got a real fundamental problem with this. I mean, I do believe we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We could be good stewards of our environment. But we just had a conversation about naloxone and about, a very significant concern in our community. I am not open to putting more resources towards something that I don't believe is as significant as something that's right in our face. I mean, you sat there for 30 minutes trying to convince us to spend, $10,000 on one thing.
Right. And
now you want us to agree with you to put any resources towards this and enforcement. I don't like this at all.
But keep in mind though, this is a state.
Sure.
It's a mandate.
This is a state mandate.
And I agree. We can accept the state mandate.
And with all due respect, and I've said this before to you, Dennis, because you and I have worked together now for 5 years, and you have always been in front of this. But I will continue to say that this is absurd, because I don't think it's an extremely small fix to the overall environmental issue here. Extremely small. So now we're being told that we've got to fine and inspect and
we don't have to fine.
Okay, but that's what we're being told. We may.
Right.
It's in the law.
But what Ed has come out and said that makes sense, because you're already in these facilities. You're there to inspect anyway. It only makes sense that these people that are already there, the manpower's already out there. But they'll take one additional thing and look and inspect for having those containers.
That's what we need, Dennis. We need one additional thing to be put on our small business restaurant.
What I'm saying is,
that's what we need.
It's better than having to pay someone else to go out and do that job, because it has to be done, doesn't it?
Well, the law doesn't seem to give us an option.
Right. Well, so if we have to do it, that's the best way to handle it. That's all you're saying, correct?
Correct.
It has to be done.
I'm suggesting, and we're not asking for.
And not putting any additional resources into it. That's what you're saying, and that's what you're saying.
Yes.
All right, what I'm seeing here is on or after July 1st, 2020, a person may not sell or offer for sale in the state expanded polystyrene food service product. That solves the problem. They're not allowed to be sold in the state.
No, that doesn't solve the problem.
Well, you could get it from Pennsylvania. I mean, really, a restaurant could get it from Pennsylvania. I mean, I don't know where the distributors are coming from.
That only enhances the problem.
Well,
it doesn't
what's going to
solve
happen
anything.
when this church bought 10,000 styrene?
They're going to throw them away, Dick.
Well,
which is exactly what we're not trying to do.
And that's what I'm saying here. It has to have a time to use their supply and then restock with something else. But I can see it now that they're going to be, they might have a 2-year supply of these things.
Well,
And
all
they're
of
gonna be
these
stuck in-
facilities actually received as a part of their renewal, their license renewal packet, we included a letter explaining all of this.
Oh, I know.
And there's also a provision in here that the department can grant them up to a 1-year waiver if they can show that they have stock or whatever. It's ultimately not going to be ours to grant it. We're going to have to ask MDE to grant them a waiver. So essentially, they've known about it. And I'm not, Commissioners, I'm not here advocating for whether this law is the right thing or not the right thing. I didn't adopt it. The Maryland State Legislature adopted it. I'm just trying to figure out how we can best deal with this. So I'm just trying to help give you the best advice I can on how I think we could best handle this in Carroll County, since we've been given this, essentially, these marching orders from the state legislature that this is now the law and it needs to be enforced. And I'm just trying to do the best we can to have the least impact on our businesses, because I don't think finding them is the right thing. I don't think that benefits us at all. And I honestly wonder whether if we send these notices to MDE with everything else that they're responsible for, how important this is going to be, and whether they're going to actually take the time to. I can't get them. And I'm just being frank with you here. If I've got somebody whose septic system's overflowing onto the ground surface and the sewage is running down the road, it takes me years to get them to take enough legal action. So I mean, it's incumbent upon me to try to get people to do the right thing.
Right.
Because when it comes to trying to get MDE to take legal action because they're causing a health hazard for everybody in the community by having their septic system overflow down the road, right. I can't get them to move on it.
I get, we get all that. My problem here is this: if this becomes a check mark on the inspection, and restaurants are failing their inspection because you all found styrofoam, because your hands are tied by the state, because it's got to be on that form. That's not right.
They're not going to fail. Okay, from a health standpoint, they're not failing their inspection. It's not going to affect their score from the inspection standpoint. All that this is doing is requiring us. Well, they're going to have to change the law if they want to do that. Is requiring us to And I'm not saying they won't do it again, but all this is doing is requiring notification to go to MDE that we've found a violation. And I'm just saying to you that since we're already doing the inspections and we're already in these facilities, it makes more sense to have us do it than to require one of your other units of county government do it. But if you all choose to designate, I'll say his name, Tom Devilbus's office to be the enforcement authority on this, hey, it makes my life easy.
Okay, so he just fell off his chair. So I think the critical part of this whole thing is section 92204, public education and outreach.
Yep.
And I think that should remain the critical part of this state law. When your inspectors are out there and you go into the Steve Wance Pancake House and you see that I've got a case of coming to a area near you, and you see that they've got a box of styrofoam that they're trying to use, and most importantly, more than that, is churches and fire departments that operate on shoestring budget when it comes to this. I would hope that inspectors aren't going to say you need to get rid of that, but I would hope the inspectors would say, hey, there's a new state law now, and you guys you guys should not be using the styrofoam, so use it quickly and hopefully we won't see it again, right?
Well,
But that's in the statute. They have
a year. What happens after a year, Dan? I don't know how this works.
I don't know how much styrofoam is bought at one time. I don't have any idea about that. How much you got in advance? I think a year is a long time to try to get rid of.
Not when you got a church that has two roast beef suppers, one in the spring and one in the fall. No, it's not.
By years, or I would even consider those excluded organizations to be a
Our nonprofit community
business.
is the ones that are going to be most affected by this, but so are the small business owners. I know a restaurant right now that's got
Commissioner,
4 cases of styrofoam.
This might make you feel better, but I'm looking at this law, in my interpretation, unless somebody tells me differently, your nonprofits, your excluded organizations are not food service businesses under this law. So if you're worried about the fire companies and the churches, I don't think we need to enforce it there. So if you're gonna designate us as the authority, that's my opinion, unless somebody tells me differently, we're talking about the businesses. And I realize this has an impact on our businesses, but they have enough turnover in stock that they know that this is coming.
Well, right.
We're not gonna try to put the hammer down on anybody. We want them to comply with the
And our
requirement.
inspectors are reminding them, as they're going through now, they're just reminding them, don't forget July the 1st, don't forget July the 1st.
That's all I hope that's going on, because, listen, let's be clear, let's take the elephant out of the room. Since I've been in this seat, and prior to that, with my involvement in the fire department, the health department inspection has always been that dreaded visit. And you are gonna find something, okay? Now, that's just the way that it is, you know that, and I'm not suggesting that you're not doing that. But that's always been sort of that mindset out there, and I don't want this to be that something.
Right. And Commissioner, we've been trying to do as much as we can to move the needle away from, public education is our primary thing, and Andrea and her staff, that's been re-emphasized with them time and time again, and I think that, you know, we're trying to have those positive relationships with the people. We're a regulatory agency, but, you know, we want to look at things where we're trying to tell people what the right thing is to do for the right reasons, and not, we don't want to necessarily have to use any enforcement authority we have. We would prefer to be at a cooperative arrangement between us and the facilities that we're responsible for licensing.
I don't want to spend any more time on this. I mean, again, we just, it's really frustrating from the conversation we just had just previously. And and the reluctance of what we're doing to a real problem. And I'm not minimizing this issue, but what do you want us to do? I mean, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is that you designate us as the enforcement authority for this section of code, because it says that it may be a local health department. And I've told you what we plan to do with this, and hope that you're comfortable that we've got the best interest of our county businesses at heart. And if you want to designate somebody else, I'm certainly open to that.
We're all good.
Ed, 5 years ago, you shut down Boy Scouts for selling lemonade. I know, but I mean, the health department does have
So
overregulation.
I think there's a rumor that's out there. I think what we did was we told them next year you need to get a permit, and we allowed them to continue to sell it.
It's just the mindset, okay? You know that. You want something.
Yeah, I don't want us to create the foam police that shuts a small business down because they have a foam cup.
That would not happen.
All right.
So
I'll make the motion that the county
I don't think
Board of Health designate the Carroll County Health Department as the enforcement authority for the Annotated Code of Maryland Environment Article 9 Tech 2201, Tech 9 Tech 2207.
Second.
We'll call them bashers. All right. I think you've heard what our expectations are by allowing you to do this loud and clear.
Absolutely.
And if that check mark, that box gets on your forms, I hope that you come running back in here and tell us that. Because if I find out that it's on there and I get a phone call, you're getting a phone call.
Well, and you'll certainly hear from us if anything changes, because I think you know by now I try to communicate anything we're doing with you guys, because I want to keep you informed, and I think it's important that you know, it's not. I didn't ask for this law to be passed. It's just I'm trying to figure out the best way for us to deal with this in Carroll County.
All in favor?
Aye.
You good?
I agree with you. First time somebody gets shut down on this or fine, I am going to go ballistic.
Well, I can tell you this, we're not shutting anybody down on this. Now, if MDE decides they're gonna take some type of enforcement action because somebody's using styrofoam, I have no control over that. But we're the local face, we're not shutting down any businesses, we're not planning on fining anybody, so that's where we are.
I like the fact that they put the 1-year waiver in the language in the law, so that's helpful to businesses.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I voted aye
Aye.
with what you have heard us say.
Yep.
And we'll leave it at that.
Aye.
Got it.
That's reluctant ayes too here.
I got it. Very good. Open burning program.
Tom Devilvis is very happy.
I told Roberta, I thought we should give it to Tom, but
Tom is
she
now
laughed.
back on his chair.
He's running out the door?
Yeah, Tom Devilvis has left the building.
So
Voted on this, you realize that?
what's that?
Voted on this, it's recorded.
That's fine. I have no problem. I'll tell Tom he can have it.
All right, what do you got now, Ed?
The open burning program, we've talked about this before, but we've actually moved this forward, and Andrea is gonna talk to you a little bit about, we've met with stakeholders, we've got the program back and running again. We're just gonna give you a quick briefing on what that looks like and give you an opportunity to ask any questions.
Okay, I'm Andrea Hanley. I'm the Deputy Director of Environmental Health. Lee couldn't be here today, so I'm here. I'm a little nervous after the last conversation about this air quality stuff, but it's good news. As of September the 1st, Carroll County Health Department is back in the air quality open burning business. So, we know after 2012 that the emergency response system, as well as our fire companies, were very taxed with responding to these types of situations, and their main concern was they felt very uncomfortable making a determination what was considered a health hazard, because we are the health officials, they are not. So, we have spent a lot of time meeting with EOC. We have met a lot of time meeting with the fire chiefs in the county. We've gone to several meetings, and we've come up with a lot of these, the two forms on top. The first is your open burning application, and the second one is the control burn from the fire company. After our last meeting at the end of last month, we did tweak that a little bit, made a couple changes based on some issues with them. What I found very positive is EOC has agreed to put that, and I believe it's called the CAD system. They're going to enter, once we approve a permit, we're going to send it to EOC. They're going to enter it into the system so everyone has access to it. Now, just to make it a little more efficient, we're also going to send a copy of the approved permit to the fire company in that area, so they will have that on file as well. That way, I think in the past, one of the issues were they didn't know if they had a permit and who had a permit, and that's why we were on site all the time. So that will eliminate that part for us. The big thing is, if they don't have a burning permit, it's going to be extinguished, period. If they do have a burning permit and we've got a health issue, if someone has asthma, if someone has COPD, emphysema, or something like that, and they're saying that they absolutely cannot breathe, we're going to have them extinguish that fire. We also may get some calls in reference to recreational burns. Typically, they're not an issue, but some of these burns are very large. So, and they could cause smoke problems in neighborhoods. If there's a health-related complaint, we will have them extinguish that fire. I will tell you, as of today, we have gotten one request, which was not approved because they didn't meet the distance requirements. So we've only done really a soft opening. We're going to go more public now that everything has gone through, the applications have been approved. Everything you will see is on our website currently, so everything is out and open to the public. We're just going to do a little more PR to let people know that we're doing this again. We have hired a gentleman Shirley's the supervisor of the program. She's gonna oversee air quality, and we've hired a gentleman that's gonna be 50% air and 50% food. So, he's up and running.
Will that individual be on like an on-call type thing, like it, you know,
Yes.
what happens at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night when I pull up on a fire engine and there has to be a question that's, I mean,
Absolutely.
you pretty much made it that either got a permit or it's
Exactly.
out, right? So that's good,
Yes.
finally. But will that individual be on call, not necessarily to respond, but maybe to take a question or something?
Not necessarily that specific individual. We do have an on-call program in our Environmental Health Bureau, and somebody from Environmental Health is available to, and everybody will be trained. So we got 24/7 on-call coverage, and your EOC has the pager number. They page somebody, we call them back, and we put them in touch with. And you know, I know this is something, Commissioner, you've been asking for, and we were able to make this work with the existing resources that we have. We just kind of moved some things around within the Environmental Health Bureau. I know it's been a long time, but you know, it's one of those things without the resources, we had to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, and I applaud you, Ed. I really do, because there's so many issues concerning this, and we've been.
Well, I heard you, and like I said, I'm sorry it took so long,
No,
but it's just,
I'm glad
we
that
had
you
to
took
figure
that
out how
long.
to make it happen.
You had to get it right, and I
And
think you got it right.
I want you to know that we took a lot of time meeting with the fire companies and EOC, because we wanted to know exactly what they needed from us.
Right.
Because, you know, some of the things that we were doing before they didn't actually need. So we've built that into the system, and our on-call person, if need be, if we have to go out, we'll have to go out. That's why we're on call. So
1,500 feet is a long area. I bet that eliminates most of the county from anything.
you're exactly right.
So what you did is just eliminate open burning totally.
Well, that's the Maryland law. That's the Maryland law.
That's a state mandate.
That's right.
Well, and you know,
They're not
Commissioners,
burning
but
foam,
what it does allow is
Smokes too much.
we've got places on ag land and whatnot. You do have some big farms that still want to do this, and other people who own large tracts of land where this is important to them, and they've not been able to legally get a permit in the past, and I think having them have the ability to get permit, especially on our larger tracts of land, is probably an important thing. But the other piece that I think Commissioner Wentz has really wanted is just to have somebody to interact with the fire companies to take a little bit of heat off of them, so that we could take the public health responsibility and they can deal with being what they do best, and that's be firefighters.
Hey, was that a pun?
Maybe. I don't know.
Nicely done, Ed.
Definitely,
Yeah.
no need to be nervous, because this was very well done, very well thought out. And, you know, we know as veterans, a lot of attention's been put on burn pits and, you know, with health situations.
Yep.
And, you know, so I'm glad we're putting attention to this. So I do appreciate this. And
Thanks.
Very well done.
So if any of our constituents want to check an open burning, we just refer them to your website, and they'll get all the applications.
You tell them to call Environmental Health. They can talk to somebody. I mean,
If
the
they wanna
website's
apply,
great, but if they
all
want
that
to,
information is
Yeah.
on the website.
Good, that's what
If
I
they
wanted to
want to
make
know if
sure.
somebody has a burning
So it's all
permit.
set up now.
Yep, it's all on there.
All right.
so.
What about somebody's burning leaves and
There's
creates
a
a lot of
specific-
stuff, they're wet leaves?
There's a specific exemption in there for
There is an
leaves.
exemption, but it's gonna create extremely.
If it creates a health hazard, we're back to that again, that whole judgment thing, and the reason that I guess there was a feeling, at least from Commissioner Wentz, that the health department needed to be in this business. We gotta make a judgment call as to whether or not, even with the exemption, it's creating a health hazard, and what are we gonna do about it? So it may be that we have to tell them, no, you can't do, I mean, obviously, if you're burning leaves in a neighborhood where you got quarter acre lots, it's.
Wet leaves, whitish, like that.
If it's not creating a health hazard, it's allowed. So that's the thing we got to look at. You know, sometimes we get people, and when we were doing this before, we'd get people that would call just because they drove by and somebody was burning. Well, that's one thing. But if you're in the middle of a subdivision with quarter acre lots and you're burning and you're bothering the neighbor on this side, the neighbor on this side, well, then maybe it's a different story. So we're not looking to go after people that are burning leaves just because somebody saw them burning.
I'm just looking at a simplified version. It'd be nice if you could just say, call the fire department, we'll be burning this at this time. And it's very simple. It's a day when it's maybe snow on the ground or something, they want to burn whatever. And that would be a simple process, however.
But that's not
That's not what's in the state law, though, unfortunately.
The jam they've got in, dude. That you can't.
We were trying to take that off of the fire companies,
Yeah.
is what we were trying to do by reinstating this program.
So now you're both the foam and the fire police.
Yeah, and don't burn the foam because that really
Oh,
makes
that would
bad
be
smoke.
Commissioner Frazier, would you like to comment? Never mind.
Okay.
What else you got?
So the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, I've been talking to you all along since I've become health officer about improvements that we're trying to make. And one of the things is I put out I guess a leadership philosophy, much like we do in the military, to my staff when I became health officer, and told them the things that were most important to me. And the things that we're working on, and Maggie's taking the point on this for us at the health department, is, the customer service thing is the thing that I emphasize over and over and over again to our staff, and trying to make sure whatever it is a person wants, even if we're not the right people to help them, that we're actually giving it. I want to be able to tell them, you go see John Smith over in permits, or you go see Commissioner Weaver up in the commissioner's office, because he's the one that can help you with this. And
I get the.
So it's important to me that we're actually giving the individuals that we're trying to help another person, if we're not the right agency, and that we're providing the best service we can to people who are coming into the health department. And part of that effort has to do with our efforts in quality improvement and performance management. And I'm gonna just go ahead and turn it over to Maggie, and she can talk to you a little bit about our annual report and kind of where we're headed with those other things. So, Maggie.
Great, thanks. So yeah, you might remember the first time I presented our strategic plan, I think that's when we came up with regulation with a smile. So you've heard a lot of regulation with a smile issues this morning. As Ed said, we do an annual report, and we're hoping to expand on that and I'll explain how in a minute. But I just wanted to bring your attention to the bound document in front of you, hopefully, which is our annual report for FY19. And it talks a little bit about all of our programs, gives a kind of an overview of them and what our services are, and then it just gives you some numbers. And we do this every year. For the most part, many of the numbers are repeated from last year. This year, we did pull out a couple of things to highlight, so you'll see a few programs being in the spotlight. One of them is our mobile crisis team, which increased dispatches by 300% in the last year, which we're very proud of. I'm very excited to work with them. We have some great pictures on page 7, highlighting a couple of our events that I know you're aware of. The Heroin Still Kills movie that was created last fiscal year, and our First Responders Appreciation Dinner. And then I'm sure you're also aware of another highlight on page 9, the birth certificate request, which increased from over 50% from the last fiscal year, in large part due to the Real ID Act and some ways that we met those.
We pause here for a second, because I just want to if anybody's watching this, or if you commissioners can spread the word about this, we actually just got the state to change something that's been very helpful. Birth certificates for people who were born before 1940 were not available through our system, and we had to refer people, so older people that were born before 1940, and yes, we have some of that population here in Carroll County, and they've still got to go through.
I'm just clearing my
They've still got to go through this Real ID process, but they couldn't get their birth certificates directly from us. Now we're able to call the state and have them put those records into the system so that we can print a birth certificate at the health department. And what I want to encourage people to do, if you know people who were born in 1940 or before, that if they need a birth certificate and they're going to come to the health department, if they call us in advance, we can get the state to put it into the system, and we'll be able to print it out for them right there on the spot, as opposed to them having to wait for us to call the state and take an hour or hour and a half or 2 of their time. So I'm just trying to get the word out there that people who were born before 1940, if you need a birth certificate, call us in advance, and we're going to expedite the process for you and make it a little easier. It's been our staff been doing a great job with this, and I'm really proud of the fact that they've been able to handle the capacity and help folks. They really like dealing with all the people that come in to get their birth certificates under. The Real ID Act's been a pain for all of us, but it's the staff have done a good job handling it. So
does that include people born out of state?
We only have Maryland records, so we only have access to Maryland records. Now, we do everything we can to help people, but, you know, the only records we have access to is what we got access to.
I do want to commend you on an updated birth certificate. He was in, out, a couple minutes and printed out and no problem at all. Thank you.
It's funny because everybody jokes with us about the MVA while they're up there, and they much rather deal with us than the MVA. So I'm glad that we can get some positive kudos on that.
Set up right. I mean, for whatever reason, my wife couldn't get one. She's born in Pennsylvania, but it was seamless. It was
good.
No problem at all.
Very good.
So I do have something good to say about health.
I'm gonna make note of that. On November 21st, 2019, Commissioner Weaver.
So I just wanted to bring your attention to those 3 services that we pulled out to highlight this year. But as you'll see throughout the annual report, it's very similar to last year, but we're adding a few more graphics. But basically, it just kind of tells you some of the numbers, some of the things that we accomplished over the last year, gives some quantification to our services. As Ed alluded to, in the future, moving forward, we're looking at a performance management system that will not only track those services by number, but will also help us track our progress towards goals. And so, as he also said, our number one goals across the agency are to provide good, high-quality customer service and to keep, make a safe and healthy community for all. And so, this performance management system will really help each program choose some goals and track their progress towards those goals. And so we'll really have hopefully a more interesting report for you next year and in the years to come as we really get rolling with that performance management system that will incorporate that strategic planning, will incorporate the quality improvement, and will incorporate more of a planning kind of look at these sort of reports. So it won't just be reporting how many widgets we sold, but also we'll be reporting how our customer service was, how we improved, and how we're going to continue to improve.
Is this on the website?
This is not, it will soon be on the website.
Because what's pretty cool about this, when you put it on the website, I don't know if you can, again, it takes a lot of work, is hyperlinking things like the 402 septic systems.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of can feel for where they are, not by specific address, but if you take it by the districts, by the regions, well, they'll know and see where trends are happening.
Mm-hmm.
The rabies, has been in the news a lot. 119 rabies, whatever it is. Again, hyperlink, so it tells a better story, puts it in
More
context,
story.
These numbers, because these numbers, it's hard to tell, out of what, or is this a big number, is this a small number?
Right.
3 exotic bird permits, I have no
clue. Is that a lot, is that a little?
But,
Right.
just how you can put it in context, I think.
It's not a problem until we have a psittacosis outbreak that we
And
like we had a year ago, and I agree. And our goal with our goal with the performance management system is there is a forward-facing side to that the public will be able to see that. And there's another issue that we're working on with the state is just trying to put all of the environmental. It's a long-term project that we're trying to get the state to fund for the 24 jurisdictions statewide. To put all the environmental health data so that there could be permit tracking and other things that could be in the system so that the public could have access to that. And it's really difficult right now because nobody has specific funding for that, and we're all trying to do it on our own, and we're trying to get the state health department and the Department of the Environment to pull it all together and do one system so that we could make a system that's more customer friendly for everybody.
On your community impact here, we talking about people getting vaccinated for flu and other vaccines. Is that just you vaccinate or throughout the entire county?
That is just, so actually for the flu, let me just make sure I'm looking at the right one. That should be, so for us, it's anything that we had a hand in. So for the vaccinations, for example, there's a number given in schools. That was something we worked together with the schools. We helped provide the vaccine. We helped set up the system, but we're not actually, we're not actually giving them. But the other ones, the other immunizations were children that were immunized at the health department, worked through health department activities. So.
And again, I go back to, I told you guys when I came on board as a health officer, we want to get as much of this out there in the community, and we want to be overseeing the health system as opposed to providing services.
I like the amount of effort that's put into the mental health services because I think we're all thoroughly aware of the impact it has upon the opioid epidemic. So thanks for that emphasis.
Anything else, Maggie?
No, any other questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I think we've
You two are up to, something's going on up there between those
we've,
two.
We've bantered with all of you enough today, probably. Right, Andrea? Wouldn't you say whoop whoop on come? Aren't you glad the lead was off today?
So you guys
I have
You're
no words.
giddy with excitement.
So I will quote her from yesterday. Can't you just present this yourself since Lee's not going to be here? And I said, no, it's your responsibility. So
Okay.
thank you, commissioners, and
Yeah, it's all. Listen, it's all good, and we continue to appreciate the efforts that you put in over there. And I know these decisions aren't easy.
yeah.
So thank you for working with us, and we continue to look forward to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to make a motion to.
Yeah. Listen, I'm starting to get a rash.
I'll take a motion. I'll take a motion
Go
to
back.
adjourn as the Board of Health.
You gotta help come
All right, is there a second?
I got it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It quickly
Thank
went
you.
away, and now we're back as the commissioners. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
I like the extra pay we get as the Board of Health, though. Appreciate it.
We should get them actual hats.
All right, we are rapidly getting towards the end here. So, is there anything for open admin?
I have a couple things.
Yeah, we gotta do that. I'll get to that.
So, we do have minutes, from.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Just a couple things. One, as of, the, Monday, our permits and inspections department, will be working out of New Windsor. We've all been told this before, but just reiterating. They'll be moving, Friday over to, I think they're closing at noon. They've let all contractors, we've had press releases, it's on our website. We tried to do as much outreach as we possibly can. We have, folks downstairs, who, have instructions as to where to send people if that's necessary. They're leaving a good man behind, to help, walk in folks. My goal is, and I told everyone this, that, we don't send anyone, to Windsor, erroneously. If they can, their first touch, if they come here and they don't know they should have gone to New Windsor, that they can get the help they need. So that's the goal. We hopefully will meet it, that they move to New Windsor as of, Monday. All the regular phone numbers still will work, nothing like that had to change. They'll be there probably for about, 4 months.
Okay, that's where I was
And
going.
be back, by the beginning to middle of April.
Okay. And I would hope that we continue to push the contractors that are doing the project down there, insert Bay Bridge here, to get done quicker, right?
That's the goal, yeah.
Thank you.
The other thing, as we know, April 1st of 2020 is our next decennial census. We've had a committee working in Carroll County, the Complete Count Committee, very diligently for several months. The kickoff was back in, I think, May or June. Just recently, in the last week or two, our regional partners with the Baltimore Metropolitan Council have reached out and asked what can be done regionally. We have every interest in helping out as much regionally as we possibly can. But the funding we received at the time was geared specifically to what we felt Carroll County's needs would be. There was no regional emphasis. BMC did not, unlike MML, BMC did not look for their own funding on this. So there is an interest by our BMC partners to work regionally, and we're going to probably tell them tomorrow that we were very interested in working regionally. We'll give all the sweat equity we can. The possibility of funding, though, is probably limited to none. And they're already aware. We only got $40,000, whereas several of our neighboring jurisdictions got $250,000 or more. So the disparity is just a little obvious. So, but we're as always, want to be a good regional partner and want to help in any way we can. So we will be reaching out to them with our time.
Okay.
I got one.
You
for-
do, is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, other than the minutes from last
Got it.
closing.
Okay.
Can't believe we're going soon into December. I appreciate the invitation from Westminster to attend an event December 11th. They're having a public forum to talk about their water situation, allocation, and share the facts that they can provide to the community. And I believe they invited all of us to attend. I am not available. I am committed elsewhere, with the county or for the county on the 11th, but I do look forward to getting the facts that they provide from that public forum. So, we'll continue to build that dialogue, and then from those facts from that forum and discussions, look forward to a joint meeting with the Westminster team to keep moving this forward and getting solutions on how to better deal with the concerns dealing with water. Also, we will, from the county, be attending MACO, 4th through 6th December, the Winter Conference, and expect to see the administration there, the state administration. So I expect to continue dialogue with them as well, with MDE and others. So I expect a follow-up discussion from the summer MACO on the water situation here in Carroll County. So.
I am also pre-committed to other events that they unable to attend. I wish they would have maybe checked ahead before setting the date, but
yeah, I can't be there either. So
hopefully we'd received a minutes or a summation of the meeting to brief us on it.
That's what I'm looking forward to, is for them to capture what we said.
we'll watch the broadcast.
Okay, there probably won't.
I'll ask them to be sure. I'll let them know that at least 3 commissioners are unavailable. I don't know about Commissioners Boucher and
I'll have to
Frazier.
check the schedule, see if I can fit it in.
But I'll let them know and I'm sorry. And ask them for the minutes.
Yeah, and I believe the three, I know the three of us, it is county, on the county agendas on what we will be attending, so unfortunately we'll not be available for that, so.
Okay, anything else for open admin from my colleagues? All right, we've got a set of minutes from a closed session that we need to vote on. Okay, hold on a minute. Before you do that, I think there's a question on the minutes.
The last line.
Last sentence.
I think the last line is probably not correct, because I don't think that Mr. Lyburn was told not to respond at this point. I believe he was told to respond with
Counteroffer.
with the changes that we had suggested in that meeting. Isn't that how that's how Nick and I are remembering it?
No, this is not correct.
That's not correct.
This is not correct.
Yes, we're correct. No, this is not correct. Okay. A lot of correctness. So I would suggest that we change that to say that we ask Mr. Lyburn to respond with the changes that we discussed. How's that? Okay, now.
Make a motion to approve the meetings for the closed session on 11/4/19 at 12:15 with amended as requested by
Okay.
Mr. Lance.
Second.
All right. Everybody good with that now?
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, we're going to go into agendas. Before we do that, just you can come up, Denise. That's just going to take 1 minute. I want to commend one of our colleagues, and that's Commissioner Boucher. He actually was at the scene of an incident a couple days ago where he had to perform some life-saving techniques that he had learned, and I want to commend him for his actions. It's near and dear to me, obviously. I was in contact with Eric when that incident occurred. Sad to say that it wasn't what we
Yeah, I was
thought
hoping
would-
he'd survive.
Right, but I want to commend you for taking the initiative to
Well, thanks.
perform.
You know, I'll tell you what, the training you get in school years ago kicks in, and I think instinct just plays on it, and afterwards it's a bit emotional because you don't know what's gonna happen to someone. So I was glad that years ago I had some school training that helped and apply what I could. But it was disturbing to me that the individual in front of me just passed the scene. I know someone had seen what was going on and he ran away from it. And I advise everyone out there, have the courage to try to help your fellow citizens. Do the best you can to try to help save their life.
Okay. So kudos to Eric. All right, agendas. Next week, nothing. Thanks very much for coming by. We don't really have anything listed for Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, although I know that all three of us will be engaged in several activities. Reminder that Thursday and Friday, both, the offices here will be closed in observance of Thanksgiving. And apparently Weaver and I can't get enough food because we're going to be at Genie Bird at Friday at 3 p.m. for a ribbon cutting. So I don't know what that's about. And Commissioner Frazier has the TTR report.
Already reported?
Already reported.
Done.
Well, we got our hands smacked that we have to have those in by Wednesday the week of now. So for a 7 a.m. listening time.
Or just start calling that your podcast, because I think really that's what you're producing, and we put it on our website.
Right.
They may broadcast it as well, but
Right.
really, I would think that our
Yeah, so
website is
why don't we change that? That's a great idea. Let's change that wording to say the Commissioner's Podcast.
It'll be the first podcast I've ever been associated with. Can't wait.
See now, aren't you excited?
I thought we had groupies that got up at Sunday morning at 7 a.m. to listen to us.
Yeah, one. Okay, is that a groupie, one? I don't know. All right, the week of December the 2nd, similar to what we just said, not a whole lot going on here because all of us will be engaged in the Maryland Association of Counties Winter Conference. Well, some of us will be. Myself, Commissioner Rothstein, and Weaver will be attending that, and that goes through Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Right. We'll come back to the December the 3rd here in one moment. Friday is the annual Carroll County Realtors Legislative Luncheon, and I think you can see the theme here because at 11 a.m. that'll be at Paradiso, and the two that aren't going to Mako will be attending that, and that's Commissioners Boucher and Frazier.
That's because there's food there.
I'll be attending a University of Maryland system open house. That's as a result of my shock trauma activities at 5 p.m. in Baltimore on the 7th. And it is Commissioner Boucher's podcast. See what I did there?
You're edgy.
All
the groupies. I like that.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to Tuesday, December the 3rd, because I know that we've got some challenges with the 3rd.
So we only have,
Yeah, several of us have events that we have got, that we're already obligated to attend. That's going to keep this very narrow, even if we do have a session.
we only have the two items that you say.
Right, so Commissioner Boucher, you had said that you were going to be late, is that correct?
I have 8:30 to 9:30 meeting at the Board of Education building.
Okay, so you can't be here till at least 9:30.
Correct.
And I've got to get out of here by 10:30. And you,
It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be, yeah, because I'm gonna be at, NEAGB function, soon after that.
so why don't we just,
Do.
let's just forget December the 3rd. I think that's the theme that I'm seeing here.
Well, at least that portion of it, not for that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly enjoy December the 3rd.
We'll skip straight from the 2nd
Yeah,
to the 4th.
don't go from the 2nd to the 4th, because something might happen in pool on the 3rd. I don't know. And put these two items, on a further out. Because it's too much going on that day. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
December's a crazy month, always is.
Yes, it is. Okay. All right, anything else for open admin?
Well, one thing is there is an upcoming event, December 2nd, where the delegation is having a public hearing down in Wigan, that evening. So I know it's out there, it's on here, and if available, 6 p.m., I'm doing a plug for that down in Wigan. Now, I guess my question though is it just the District 5 delegation, or is it District 5, 9, and 4?
The entire Carroll County delegation, which is all of them, if they attend. And it's
What
their
time?
meeting, It's their meeting, they're just using our room, and we do this every year. It's their way to hear from the public, what legislation the public would like them to take up.
And it's a great opportunity for the community here. And I'm just going to give another plug very quickly. I attended a information session, whatever it was, on Tuesday evening, where the delegation spoke. There's a club that is out there. It's a Republican club for sharing ideas, and just another great opportunity to share ideas and listen what the delegation's focus is as they're getting ready to go into session in January. So, that's all.
All right, and to mark on your calendars too, it's not here yet, but it will be on the agenda. It's December the 9th, Monday the 9th. We will be doing archery lighting here at the county office building at 5 p.m. And you may want to come this year because there's going to be a little something different going on.
You're singing?
There may be something a little different going on.
He was in Nashville. He has
There
a
may
guitar
be a
now.
little something different going on. That's it.
But I will throw out there, I am having a town hall.
We'll see what's going on tonight.
I'm having a town hall on the 9th that morning, and then after the ceremony here that evening,
Okay.
I have Board of Education in attendance with me. So.
When we come down soon.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Anything else for Ruben?
I think we've done all we can.
Yeah, I think we're okay. I'll take a motion to recess until 1 p.m.
So moved.
To go into another comprehensive rezoning, and I will remind you that we have a hard stop at 2:30. So let's try to be on time at 1 to get ripping on that. Although I don't know that we have a whole lot yet.
Yeah.
There, but we've got a hard stop at 2:30. So we'll have an hour and a half to 7. What? You looking at me, Weaver?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the reason why we're starting late last time.
Yeah. All right. So I got a motion and second to recess until 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.